It's time for MacBreak Weekly. Andy Anako's here. Jason Snell's here, filling in for Alex Lindsay, the bearded tutor, the wonderful Stephen Robles. And, of course, we have a big birthday to celebrate, an anniversary. We're going to get the balloons, we're going to get the cake, and we're going to see if we can boot this 40-year-old Macintosh next on MacBreak Weekly.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
This is MacBreak Weekly, episode 905, recorded Tuesday, January 23rd, 2024. Tequila for your eyes. MacBreak Weekly is brought to you by Collide. When you go through airport security, there's one line where TSA agents check your ID, and then there's another where the machine scans your bag, right? Well, in a way, the same thing happens in enterprise security, but instead of passengers and luggage, it's end users and their devices. And these days, most companies are pretty good at the first part of the equation where they check user identity, but very bad at the second part. User devices can roll right through authentication, and they never get inspected. In fact, 47% of companies, almost half, allow unmanaged, untrusted devices into their network to access their data, which is a terrible thing if you think about it. It means an employee can log in for a laptop that has its firewall turned off and hasn't been updated in 6 months, or even worse, a laptop might be belonging to a bad actor that's using legit employee credentials to get in. Collide solves this device trust problem. K-O-L-I-D-E. Collide ensures no device can log into your Okta-protected apps unless it passes your security checks. Plus, you can use Collide on devices without MDM, like your Linux fleet, contractor devices, every BYOD phone and laptop in your company. This is real peace of mind. Visit collide.com/MacBreak to watch a demo and see how it works. K-O-L-I-D-E. Collide.com/MacBreak. It's time for MacBreak Weekly, the show where we cover the latest Apple news. Jason Snell is here. So the warrant canary has failed. He is still in his home.
I'm here. I do not have a Vision Pro.
Oh.
I do have an original Mac behind me that is
it's running too. Looks like you got solitaire going on there. Yeah.
I think right now. No, there's it's some DAs, because you can't have a floppy disk that also has apps on it. So
right. Disk accessories.
It's got a calculator and
was it disk or desk? It was desk accessories.
Desk accessories. Yeah. So the calculator, control panel, and the notepad, I think, are all open.
We'll tell you why he's turned that on.
Multitasking, original Mac style.
In just a moment. But we should also say hi to Andy Anako, WGBH in Boston. Hello, Andrew.
Hello, Jason. I don't want to spoil it for you, but if you're stuck on the puzzle game, there's a really great surprise for finishing it. I don't want to ruin it for you, but it's pretty darn cute.
Slide the numbers around until you get them in order.
I'm looking forward to it.
And I like your hat, Andrew, the San Francisco Giants World Series hat from I don't know when.
Yes, I was doing some 2010.
Oh, yeah. Nice.
Yep.
San Francisco Giants baseball. And
on the air.
Let's welcome Stephen Robles, the bearded teacher. He is in the house. PrimaryTech.fm, filling in for Alex Lindsay, who is on assignment, probably testing his Mac Vision Pro. Great to see you. You are here on an auspicious day. I could play the 1984 Apple commercial for you right now, but Apple would immediately take the show off the air, and I don't want to do that. But imagine in your mind, wah, 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 wah. On January, what was it, January 20th? 24th. Which is tomorrow.
1980. Apple will introduce the Macintosh.
And then something about
why 1984 won't be like 1984.
Whoosh, we will prevail.
He just reenacted it. I don't think Apple will take that down.
That Foley work was outstanding.
He did it all with his mouth, ladies and gentlemen. Mm-hmm. And a couple of pair of old brown shoes on sandpaper.
I was gonna say that. It's your show, but that's a really odd way to pay tribute to the 30th anniversary of Kevin Smith's Clerks. It was a great movie. I mean, it could define. It was like the first movie that I'd ever seen that had people my age page on movies that we're actually talking in like my patois, so to speak. I'm
now closing
that, like, Max had something to do with it.
That tab so that we can't accidentally play the 90. Of course, it is the 40th now anniversary of Macintosh. It shipped January 24th. This was one of those things where they announced it and it shipped almost immediately, or had they pre-announced it in September or something like that?
No, they did the Super Bowl ad, and then they rolled it out, and
boom,
that was
there it is.
On the day, and they rolled it out, and they even rolled out. This is a little funny quirk. They rolled out Macworld magazine that day too. They had actually done a pre.
I remember
planning of the first issue of Macworld literally was at the event, which is wild, right? The access that they had behind the scenes to the Mac team.
I think we all got a subscription to Macworld, as I remember when we bought a Mac. I think you got a year subscription.
There was that too. That deal lasted a very long time. That deal lasted like 25 years, I think.
Wow.
The card in the box.
Course,
that was a big one.
Mr. Snell was editor-in-chief at Macworld
for 10, 15 years, something like
that.
So
time.
I was there. It's sort of like after the salad days, but yes, I was there. I started working at Macworld and Mac User before that in the 90s when Apple was doomed, and they got better.
They were doomed.
It was a bad career move.
I used to go on the radio in 93 and 94. This was in the Gil Amelio era, and then the Diesel, Herr Schindler, and used to say, Apple, it's doomed. They're terrible. They're terrible. They have no the memory management on the Mac is terrible and all that. And then Steve Jobs came back, brought Next with him, and that was the big that was the big savior. And of course, Bill Gates, $150 million helped.
Yeah, we passed the line item a little while ago now. You have to be vague about it, but we could still say vaguely that Mac OS 10 sort of arrived at what is now kind of the halfway point in the Mac's life, but it's actually Mac OS 10 era has actually been around a few years longer than classic Mac OS, no matter how you define those dates, because there was a fuzzy sort of 3 years in the middle there.
Next Step, you're saying?
Yeah, well, I mean, we think of we're celebrating 40 years of the Mac, the classic Mac OS, but about 16, 17 years after that, they replaced it with the Next Step based Mac OS 10, and that's what we've had since then. So more than half its life now. Yeah,
in fact, if you look at Next Step, and this was on the famous Steve Jobs beautiful black Next Cube, you might say, oh, that looks a little familiar, especially the column-based Finder and all of that. This is what got ported over to the. Apparently, at the time, there was some debate inside of Apple whether they should buy BOS or Next Step. BOS was beautiful and did run on Mac hardware, but Steve Jobs came with Next Step. He was kind of bundled in with Next Step, and I think Next Step was the right choice. And they got Avi Tavanian and a bunch of other great people too, John Rubinstein. All right, Burke is on the ground. We have to do this. So in 1984, Apple released on January 24th, 40 years ago tomorrow, the first Mac. Is this the original 128K Mac? This is John Slanina's original. You can see it's yellowed beautifully. That beautiful patina of age. And we haven't booted this since 2013 on the 30th anniversary. So every 10 years we have a promise to attempt.
Could be some interesting smells.
To boot this up. So go ahead, Burke. Oh, the hard drive. We've turned on the hard drive. It's spun up.
Do you have like a wooden spoon you can touch the switch with just in case?
Oh, there's the beep. I heard the beep. You heard the beep. All right. You've mic'd it and everything. Good for you. We are now watching. It's booting from how big is the hard drive, John?
80 megabytes.
An 80 megabyte aftermarket hard drive. Who made it? Do you remember?
Damn.
CMS, and he got a SCSI port. Uh-oh. Is that a SAD Mac? Is that a?
It doesn't. It's not seeing the disc.
Yeah.
Well, maybe it hasn't booted yet.
Yeah.
Well, no. Both things had to work.
I hear sound.
You can hear the hard drive. Yeah.
The hard drive is an actual mechanical hard drive. It's not a solid state replacement.
Do we have some emergency floppies?
Floppy drive needs to be replaced.
Okay.
Oh.
Well,
whack it with a. I mean, he's got
mine.
stuff,
which means that it could be looking at something.
So,
it might be reading. Let's keep an eye on it. It's an old
Mac
man
like that. There's a thing called Floppy Emu that actually you plug into the floppy drive.
That's what you're using, isn't it?
A while ago. Yeah. And that's what I'm using. And you put an SD card with disk images on there, and it'll boot. It'll also emulate a 20 megabyte hard drive.
John has a backup floppy. Is this?
Alex Gumpel bought this for me.
Alex got this for him, so that
he didn't install it.
He didn't install it. So you think is your hard drive shot? I mean, your floppy drive shot?
Don't you have a floppy?
Wait a minute. Is anything happening? No.
No.
This is worse than Al Capone's vault. The mouse is working. So here's the floppy. Kids, if you're under 40,
Zap the PRAM.
This thing is older than you. So no wonder it's having a hard time waking up. We'll get it. We'll keep. He got an aftermarket SCSI port put on his Mac 128K so that he could have that CMS 80 meg, not gig, 80. I could fit one shot from my Sony R7 on that Alpha 7 on that. Oh, wait a minute. He's hysterical. He's got a 20 megabyte hard drive. He's going to try. We're going to keep working on it. Do you remember, Andy, buying your first Mac?
Yes. There's no way in hell I could afford it. So what happened was I used to work there in New England. There was a chain of like department stores called Lechmere. I used to work in the computer department, and they had this is back when like teenage employees were not well supervised. They were very well trusted, which was their mistake. And so I got my first Mac. It was a 512K Mac that I bought for I think $77.77, like in the like 85, 86, 87 or so, no, 87 or 88. And the reason why was because the top was like kind of one of the vents was broken off. And maybe somebody who had access to tools and knowledge might have unplugged the logic board internally and then put it back together. And then we were required to like put like things that were out of the box, like on a shelf for discounts. And as the longer it stayed on the shelf, the more discounts they would like drop it down to until it got down to 77 cents, which means that give us any money, we will take it. So yes, like what could have been like a good like $1,000 like secondhand Mac Plus, I kneecapped so that I could get it for what a teenager working at a department store after school could buy.
How about you, Steven? You're not old enough to have bought the first Mac, I think.
No, I was late to the game. It was 2005 for me.
Oh,
my first one was a 12-inch G4 PowerBook.
You could have bought the 20th anniversary
12-inch PowerBook, so great.
The PowerBook, it just blew. I saw someone at college have it my freshman year, and I was like, I don't even know what that is because I was not in the Apple world at the time, and I knew I needed it. I don't know why. I didn't know what I was going to do with it. But I was like, I have to have that computer.
I remember showing my father-in-law the color screen on this is one of the PowerBooks. This is a later one, I think. The color screen on the PowerBook, and saying, look at that, because we'd only had black and white screens up until that point. So this was a big deal. Look at that trackball. So 1984, Jason Snell, where were you?
I was in Sonora, California, using an Apple II. Is where I was. And I didn't really use a Mac until college. We used them in high school to do like typesetting, where we literally just type in our stories for our newspaper and print them in. But no, we didn't even do that. We literally were just printing out things and cutting them up for the high school newspaper and pasting them down. But in college, we used PageMaker, and that's where I fell in love. They had just gotten Macs. They needed people who were going to be comfortable learning them. I was very comfortable learning them. And I fell in love to the point where by the end of my sophomore year in college, I'd started my sophomore year at that newspaper. I had gone to the college bookstore. And back in those days, people who have been college students in the last 15 years will not understand the college discounts used to be real good. They're not anymore, but they used to be like 40%, 50%
because they wanted to get you in the family, and then they wanted to hook you.
Exactly.
Buying Macs.
So I had this Apple II. I'd stopped using it. I essentially would go to the newspaper office and get on a Mac SE there and write my papers and things because I didn't want to use the Apple II anymore. So I went to the college bookstore. They were having a sale plus the discount on the Mac SE. It was because the Mac Classic was going to be coming in a few months, which was honestly not any better than the Mac SE. And I got that Mac SE and I loved it. So that was the first. I dipped into my own college bank account that I had, wrote the check myself. So against perhaps the advice, my parents would probably not have approved of that, but I'm like, no, I had to do it. And it was absolutely the right decision to do it because I had moved on and really the rest is history. I've never looked back since then.
You're not kidding about those college discounts. My first new Mac was a Mac Plus, which I bought because I think the price was like something like $2,000 at the time, but the college discount price was something like $800 or $900, which I could barely swing. And I gamed the system. I went to Northeastern University, went to like their college listings and found out that if you're taking any classes, they will issue you a college ID. And the cheapest 1 credit course is like $200 and something. So I signed up for a course and I don't even know what it was. I spent $250 to get like an $1,100 discount so I could actually afford this.
Smart game. We do have, fortunately, the very illegal third market Torx screwdriver.
That is long handled.
The reason it's so long is because Steve didn't want you to open it. And deep inside that Mac, there are Torx screws.
At the handle. Inside the handle. So,
John, apparently, you think it's the machine that's not booting? Because that was a serious ROM error you had over there. That was the hard drive?
Well, the first time, it was a
bad hard drive.
There was no system.
Yeah. Couldn't find the system. So he's going to open it up and put that new, you want to put the new floppy in?
Well, I'm going to actually let person.
He's going to open it up. We are, but the clock is ticking on the instant repair of the 40-year-old Macintosh. We'll see if we can get it limping. I remember in '83, I was working at KLOK Radio in San Jose. So I was, 27. I was an adult. I'm so much older than you guys. So I was an adult. So in '83, I would walk by the computer store, and there was a Lisa in the window, and I'd I think almost literally press my nose against the glass, going, I wish I could afford that, but it was $10,000. I wanted that so bad. But see, that set me up, because then they announced Macintosh, and even January 24th, I was, thinking, oh, should I? And I couldn't bring myself to do it. But I am a 100-dayer. There for a while, they would honor people who bought a Mac within the first 100 days as the early adopters. I'd finally gotten enough gumption to go down to Macy's in Union Square in San Francisco and use my Macy's charge card because it was $2,500. And by the way, that's in 1984 dollars. So that is probably closer to $10,000 today. It's a lot of money.
$7,300.
$7,300. Now it gives you an idea of this is like not a trivial purchase.
And the Lisa,
you buy 2 Vision Pros for that.
The Lisa is like the Lisa cost $30,000.
Oh, it was not like 10.
A car.
It was ridiculous.
In today's money,
today's money,
10 back in 1983.
Okay. Yeah.
But in today's money, that's $30,000. So it's basically like a car. So the Mac was the affordable computer, and it's still what we would think of today as $7,300.
Crazy. But I plunked down my card because I wanted that 128K Mac, and it was very underpowered. But it was the first 3M computer, a megapixel screen, megabyte of memory. I don't remember the third M was probably a megahertz, but 100 megahertz or something. What was the processor? It was a 68,000.
Motorola 68,000.
And it was running at, I can't remember, maybe not many megahertz.
8 megahertz.
8 megahertz. But it was a great processor. I wrote assembly code for this processor. And unlike the x86, which was the current at the time, the PC had already come out 3 years earlier. It didn't have segmented memory. It had a flat memory model, so you could write to all the memory without any fooling around with segments. And so it was really easy. It was fun to write for.
It was, it wasn't fun to use though. People forget that like one of the biggest
there's a reason. Floppies, remember that? Oh,
the reason why like you could do an upgrade to the 512K Mac simply by pulling out all of the low bit chips of a 128K motherboard and putting in 512K chips. That shows you that they were kind of desperate to get the price down where it had to be. And so as a result, MacWrite had like a limitation of I think 9 pages. Almost anything that you did would involve like, oh God, the swap of death, where, okay, spit out your system disk, put in your app disk, spit out your app disk, put in your system disk, put in your, as it kept like trying to have to swap and load things in and out of memory all the time. And this was at a time when PCs were fairly, the Apple II line was 100% mature. The PC line, the MS-DOS line was 100% mature. So you were there was a reason why you were a Mac owner or a user, and it wasn't because you wanted the most value for money or the most efficient, or it's easy to use in some ways. Absolutely drove you up a tree in others, but that's why we were happy.
We were happy. We were happy campers. Yes. Is this Alex Gumpel memorabilia, John? This box. This came with the 128K Mac, just to give you an idea. This is before Apple really got packaging down. This is yours?
So the cassettes.
You saved it. Yeah, you remember the cassettes? So this is a cheesy plastic box. So Apple got rid of that, which is a good thing. And inside, John, I'm amazed at your impulse control. All of the stickers.
Nice.
Still. The little trifold, how to use it. And back when PCs were big, Apple made a lot of hay on the fact that you could use this computer by just looking at this pamphlet. And cassette. What was on the cassette? It was an audio cassette. It must have been. Wasn't data, right? A guided tour.
No, it was just like an audio book that would like. It would be a video. It would be a setup video right now.
And John even saved his floppy disk labels. But the floppy disks are gone. They were used to boot it. Isn't this cool? I mean. Well, you got them over here.
I don't have a 128, but I do have like the very first like piece of software for the Macintosh ever.
I have no idea what happened to my 128. Oh, look at that! What is that? Oh, Alice.
This is Through the Looking Glass.
That was.
I have two copies. One is open. One is still sealed. But yeah, it was
like a slideshow, right?
No. It was a chess game.
That's right.
Almost impossible to play because it moved so freaking fast.
I think did Stephen Capps write that? I think he did. Yeah.
It actually says by Steve Capps right on the disc.
Wow. Yeah. So this was one of the
really
demo programs. Obviously, they had to write a bunch of stuff because nobody else.
Oh no, this wasn't a demo. This was commercial software.
No, I know. I'm saying.
I'm sorry.
But he was at Apple when he wrote it, and I think it was just to show what you could do. Yeah. Here's the boot disc. This is a guided tour, so it came on floppy. Look at all these. Yeah. How big were? Okay, here's a test for you, historians. How big were these floppies?
400K.
400K. 400K, and then eventually they made double-sided, and eventually they got to a little bit more.
What?
400.
No one ever is going to use 800K of storage.
400 kilobytes, but the operating system was on there. I don't remember. Did you? I think you had to boot to multiple disks when you were booting to floppy.
Oh yeah,
yeah. So you'd stick disk in one end and go.
You have a system disk,
and it had an ejector. You couldn't pull the disk out. It wasn't like a cheap PC.
One.
Software controlled eject.
And then you would take it out and put the next one in. Put in disk 2. I don't remember how many disks it was, but it was a lot of work. And then copying stuff was a lot of work because your operating system and your program like MacWrite, which came. Mac Paint and MacWrite came in the early days. You would put that in, and then you'd have to eject that to save your file. And to copy files, you'd have to swap. It was a nightmare. This is why John bought that I'm sure, very expensive CMS external hard drive. Wow.
It was that was a very, very big, and also it shows you again the weirdness of early Mac users. That of course the entire philosophy of the Mac is that this is a sealed box that you will never ever as a user get inside because you have no business being in there. Of course, it's not expandable. Why on earth could you improve upon the perfection of the engineering we put inside here? That's why we made you go to an auto parts store to find the weird screwdriver that will let you crack it open. And yet, within a year or two, there were companies that. Okay, what if we created sort of like a big clothespin with connectors on it that you could clip onto the actual CPU itself to add an external display, to add a hard drive, to add an accelerator. And it was the scariest thing in the entire damn world because it was also how a lot of us learned that, so that CRT tube carries a thunder kick killing level of electricity even when it's powered off. Okay, good to know. And of course, eventually the clip would sort of like weaken or like pop off, and suddenly everything would crash like in the most glorious fashion because your computer would be very, very confused. The idea of an accessory of, hi, I'd like to be able to like run DOS software. Okay, just put it into this PC dock so you can have the ability to use your keyboard and your screen of your $3,000 computer to use what is now a $5,000 computer. You can always tell when people will do crazy, silly things to do something with a piece of hardware or software that the designers never intended, or maybe even were trying to actively make you not do, you know that you got something there because someone has an investment that goes far beyond the amount of money.
So the Super Bowl ad was January 22nd. That's because the Super Bowl was a lot earlier back in the good old days. And the Mac came out the 2 days later, the 24th, you could actually buy it. And as you pointed out, it was extremely expensive purchase at the time. There wasn't a lot of software for it. It came with Mac Paint, right? And Mac Write. Mac Paint was what Steve Jobs showed when he first showed the Macintosh. Oh, we're working on it. We're taking it apart. It's very, very exciting here, ladies and gentlemen. Careful of that tube, Burke. You know, it's a capacitive device. It can hold electricity. Okay. I notice he's not even wearing a wrist strap, but you are standing on a giant rubber box, right? I don't know what he's doing. I think he's not insulated or anything. Here's Steve with the Susan Kerr, I think, did this beautiful picture of a Japanese woman brushing her hair. So, of course, a famous Japanese painting, but Susan Kerr had to do it pixel by pixel in Mac Paint. Yep. She was an expert at that. Yep. It came with Mac Paint, came with Mac Write. Microsoft jumped on the bandwagon pretty quickly. By April, Microsoft had a copy of its program. Was it Word? I guess it was Word back in the day. Still is. Yeah. And Multiplan, which pre-Excel spreadsheet. This is according to Wikipedia. Microsoft Word. Multiplan came out in April, migrated from MS-DOS, and Microsoft Word January 85, a year later. Macintosh Office Suite came out the same year. That was the Lemmings ad. So after insulting IBM users with the 1984 ad, they really doubled down and had, apparently these were PC users jumping off a cliff because they were all following one another. Wow. The ad did not work according to Wikipedia.
It was the entire launch is kind of noteworthy because of exactly how well thought out it was, because you knew the stories of all of the key engineers who went into it. They were like studio photos of like almost like a class picture of all of them.
Credit to Steve for doing that, because that was back in the day when they didn't really tell you who had made your software, who had made your hardware.
Yeah, everybody signed the back of it. That was
in fact, hey, do you have the case there? Is it open? Can we? Once you get the case open, let's look inside.
This is like, remember that Francis Ford Coppola movie Tucker, where like they're announcing the brand new car up front with the dancing girls. Meanwhile, in the back, they're desperately hammering and putting wood into the suspension. So that
you have to feel like some of that was happening. John, can you see inside the plastic of the case? Yeah, hold on. As soon as you get that, it's still attached by a variety of cables. As soon as they can, we'll look. This was something interesting because you were never ever intended to do what we're doing, which is open this thing up. Right. Steve, in fact, designed it that way. He didn't want anybody going inside it. This is Steve Jobs in his heyday, where no users going inside my device. But nevertheless, he got the designers to sign the plastic of the case, the molds for the plastic. I wonder why. Do you think he thought someday, like now, 40 years later, people would be opening it up and go, "Oh, look, Andy Hertzfeld." Steve Capps.
I think the line was all artists signed their work.
Yeah, great artist ship, he also said.
That too.
They had a pirate flag up on this building that was kind of apart from the Infinite Loop campus.
Yeah. Again, Steve Levy's like original book on the development of the Macintosh is still like just great reading. Even if it's not out of date at all, because it's just such good storytelling. It really is all about how like Apple, the grown-ups, where Apple was at a state where the board wanted a quote grown up unquote to be running the company. That was not in their eyes going to be Steve Jobs. So the grown-ups who were running the company were like pushing Steve Jobs into isn't that nice? The founder is still with the company and he's still like helping. Isn't that adorable? That'll be great for like interviews and stuff like that. And Steve Jobs was like, no, you don't understand. I'm not trapped in here with you. You're trapped in here with me. And he deliberately went out to say, okay, give me my own engineering group. Oh, sure. Great. Have your own little project. And his project was, I'm going to undermine the Lisa by making a version of it that is better than it, less expensive, more attractive, and more marketable. And how about that? And that's why there was a pirate flag on top of the building, because they were on their own unit, answerable to pretty much nobody, because he was stealing people from Apple, from the Apple II division, stealing people from wherever. It's quite a story.
Here is.
I wanted to point out something.
Case. I'll show you.
Look at that.
Yeah. So, and by the way, there is something you can wash this with to get the yellow away, but I don't think you should. So, where are the signatures in here?
They were beige to begin with, so
yeah. These were not this color, and all the ones.
Yeah, but they were more than you would. They weren't white. I mean, they were
always
already
a little yellow.
Always.
Platinum
He would have never done white. So where are the?
On the back, they're embossed. You have to put the light right up next to them.
Oh, you have to put.
Very, very back
I
wall.
see it. Oh, you can. I don't know if you guys are going to be able to see it because it is very finely embossed. But if I put now, do you have an over the head?
Breaking light.
He's thinking the overhead shot. Oh, I have it upside down, so we want to see the people's names. I'm gonna have to turn it right side up. Yeah, I thought, I've never seen this. I never got inside one of these, but you can kind of see when I shine the light like this. There's Andy Hertzfeld right there. Let's see if I move this. Where can you see better? Oh well, you can kind of see that there's signatures there. Where's Steve's signature? I'm looking. His signature is probably at the top, you would think, right?
No, I remember it being lower right quadrant.
There's Daniel Kotke, who was Steven's roommate and wrote the technical documentation for it. Didn't get any stock either. Wozniak famously gave Kotke some of his. But this is in the early days of Apple.
Am I remembering the quote right? With again, one of those famous Steve Jobs stories about where, we kind of feel as though some of these employees who founded the company kind of got screwed out of stock options, so we're all kicking in the equal amount to the pool. And Steve Jobs said, "Great, I'll kick in zero." Zero
is my kick in. Yeah, they went. Yeah, here's Jeff Raskin's name. Now he really deserves a lot of credit because even though he was kind of on the outs by the time the Macintosh came out, he was the one who said, we want to make an appliance computer.
Yeah. He started the project and led it until Steve took it over.
Yeah. And he came up with Macintosh, I believe, right? I can't remember. There's Hap Horn. Wow, this is really cool. I still don't see Steve Jobs' name, but I guess that's fitting because of the famous, wonderful people that I am seeing on here. Looks like Bill Atkinson, of course, who's a great guy and still very active in the community, as is Andy.
I always wondered what happened to the Art Master. What they did was they passed around an engineering plot that had the part that was going to be made. So it was just a piece of paper, and they just passed it around the entire team over however many days, and everybody actually physically signed this one thing. And then they turned that into basically an offset. They basically used that as a mold that wherever there was ink, that would be like a cutout in the mold so that plastic would fall into it, and that would be like the embossing. But I've always wondered what happened to the original piece of paper that has the signatures of Steve Jobs and everybody who worked on it.
Yeah,
that would be somebody is saying, I'm not even saving this for when I need to build a house or send kids to college. I'm saving this in case I need desperate medical care.
I think they should put it on Voyager 7 or something, send it out into
engrave it on a piece of gold and ship it out to beyond the rim.
Really, people might be wondering why we're making such a big deal about the 40th anniversary, but it really humanized computing. IBM's PC came out in 1981, and it was intended for your desktop. And I had one, and it was very much a desktop computer. But everybody kind of looked to Apple to make computing human scale, not for business, something you might want to have in your home.
All consumer personal computers at that point. We can asterisk because they were
the Commodores and the VIC-20.
But all of them, and the Apple II, right? Apple's own computer, they're all command line computers. So that the real revelation, and people don't even, I think, understand this now, was this idea that you had a graphic interface and a mouse or other pointer control device and a menu bar, and everything was visual instead of literally the only thing being like a terminal window that you typed commands into. The Mac did that, and it was kicking against the tide, and it took years for people to understand that interface. In fact, it really took until Microsoft did Windows, and then everybody sort of got with the program. But the Mac was the only one. And then Amiga came in, and the Amiga from Commodore was similar, but like it was an outlier. It won in the end. It was right, but at that time it was not so certain. Even inside Apple, the Apple II still sold really well. People think now, like, once the Mac came out, the Apple II was dropped. The Apple IIe was incredibly popular. It was the driver of Apple revenue. Apple released 2 completely new Apple II models after the Mac was announced.
I remember
the 2C and the 2GS.
In 1984, Apple had an event called Apple II Forever at the Moscone Center. Here's Steve. Forever. Here's Steve Jobs. I know you can't really see it, but there's Steve Jobs. Thank you, Out of Sync, who said it's middle column, 4th down, and there it is. I admire Steve for not being the first on the list, not pulling the John Hancock and having a giant signature at the bottom, but really just being one of a team. And it really was an incredible team of super talented people who worked their butts off to make this thing.
If everybody should check out the Apple History Project, because it's documenting all of the individual stories of, again, Stephen Levy's book is amazing, but now it was written not necessarily within the same sort of generation of time as the release of the Macintosh. This is people who are retired, people who are older, who have lots of perspective. So if they might have had like rose-colored glasses at the time, they no longer do. If they might have had resentments, now they see that with, again, the additional perspective and context. And it's a very, very experiential sort of thing, hearing all of these histories.
Yeah, Andy Hertzfeld put this together. It's at folklore.org. Anecdotes about the development of Apple's original Macintosh and the people who made it. There's 123 stories here. Most recent is it looks like Bill Atkinson's joining Apple Computer. Is that the most recent? Look at Bill. He wrote this on the 40th anniversary of joining Apple Computer, which had been 2018. So, but just some amazing stuff. Yeah, I've read it. I've read this cover to cover. It'd be a great book, I mean, I think
it is. I think they made it into
Did they make a book? Good.
I think that's the Revolution in the Valley book is the contents of folklore.org.
Just incredible.
Yeah.
There it is. There's a picture of Revolution in the Valley. I guess it must be. The insanely great story of how the Mac was made. Andy published it as a book later. Nice. O'Reilly.
Yeah, and again, that's part of the press photos that they had. Again, let's get everybody together so the engineers. They even got another photo session together of, again, for marketing purposes, to make people think that, hey, this isn't just a toy machine. We've actually got the leading software development companies in the world like supporting it. So you have like Bill Gates, you have 4 other CEOs, the CEO of the company that published the PFS series, all together in custom little golf shirts with their logos on them, like around the Macintosh, to show, hey, look at all the firepower we've got behind this. It was, I think it feels like a hallmark event in how Apple understood that you can't just put it out there and people will figure it out. You also can't just simply, hey, we'll just make some mass market commercials of, and while Dad's balancing his checkbook, Mom is in the kitchen looking up recipes. Like you have to basically, here is the story that we are telling through this machine, and we're going to tell you the story of it by giving you the people who actually put it together. It's kind of a masterstroke.
Yeah. Look at all the names, many of whom resonate still today. A great team, who did a great thing. 40 years ago, the Macintosh came out, and I'm the only one on the panel who had that original. No, John had it. Original 128K Mac that was good for nothing. I think I bought a Mac Plus as soon as they came out, and then was there a 512K first, and then the Mac Plus? And it's slowly. I probably owned almost every Mac from day one.
Yeah. At the Boston Computer Society, there used to be like soldering parties where people would club together to buy the 512K chips, and because you had to order them in quantity to get like in any way a good discount, and then because not everybody had desoldering tools, not everybody knew how to solder, it would be just 3 tables full of boards and people laboriously, one contact at a time, removing the old chips, one contact at a time, soldering in the new chips, and then praying to God that it posts when you turn it back on again, because you bridge one thing and that could be it for the entire motherboard. Like that's how insane a lot of people originally were, or also how annoyed they were about all the disk swaps, frankly.
This is from Wikipedia. Apple spent $2.5 million purchasing all 39 advertising pages in a special post-election issue of Newsweek, and ran a test drive a Macintosh promotion in which potential buyers with a credit card, I didn't know this, could take home a Macintosh for 24 hours and return it to a dealer afterwards. 200,000 people, more than bought the Vision Pro. 200,000 people participated. Dealers disliked the promotion. The supply of computers was insufficient for demand, and many were returned in such bad condition they could no longer be sold. This marketing campaign caused John Scully, the CEO at the time, to raise the price from $2,000 to $2,500. Computers sold well, nonetheless, reportedly outselling the IBM PC Junior, with its rubber chiclet keys, which also began shipping early that year. One dealer reported a backlog of more than 600 orders for the Mac. By April '84, the company had sold 50,000 Macs and hoped for 70,000 by early May and almost 250,000 by the end of the year.
Another thing worth mentioning, you mentioned the PC, the IBM PC, but like this is it's not the era before PCs, but it is the era before PC clones. So it's still an era where every computer is different and it's its own platform. And the Mac that benefited from that until that moment where the PC clones came in and then Windows came on top of it. And then it became this kind of minority platform. But you can see why they said the computer for the rest of us, like not having it be a command line where you have to guess or look at a manual. You can like explore with the mouse, and all the commands exist in that menu structure. Like these were the huge leaps forward that made it much more friendly for like regular people. I mean, they weren't wrong, and they were the only ones out there with it at the start.
There were clones didn't become a really big deal until the FAC 512 came out. There were some. You did have the very beginnings of the clone industry in the 1980s. It was the first mess markup. The first ones were 1982, but it was barely compatible.
That was the compact.
1983, 1984.
Yeah, but it picked up momentum, and then then the Mac went being one of a bunch of weird operating systems to being the minority platform where the majority platform was the PC, and that I mean, I was thinking about the other day. In some ways, this is the best time ever for the Mac, because the Mac was always under threat, right? It was not the big computer at Apple. It was because the Apple II. It was not PC compatible. And then Windows 95 really put it in the ground in a lot of ways. It got back on its feet with the iMac and then the iPod halo effect that got rehabbed Apple's brand. But and then they had the PowerPC problems where they were behind Intel. It was really the Intel processor transition that got the Mac sort of to parity in a lot of ways. And then the Apple Silicon transition has taken it to the stratosphere. But, the Mac was always kind of an underdog throughout most of its life.
Yeah, it was. I mean, there is I've been thinking a lot because of the anniversary about like how wonderful the whole story is, that you start off with, and because it's reductive to say, and then Apple smashed the window with the Macintosh and nothing was the same ever again. And it's like, well, it's more interesting to like know about the tech demo, the greatest tech demo of all time in like 1969, 1970, which showed off, here is research level hardware and software to show what we think the future, a direction of computing could be if lots of things start to align. Then Xerox said, okay, we took those ideas and we made a commercial, albeit industrial computer, the Star, that will mouse, keyboard, documents, things like that. Apple said, that's nice, but that's really not a consumer product. We made that into something that people could actually afford and people would actually want to use. And then Microsoft, for all 18, 17, 16-year-old Andy used to say about how horrible Microsoft Windows is, Microsoft also did something brilliant and an engineering triumph, which is, okay, now let's try to figure out how to make software this complex work on commodity hardware, not proprietary hardware, where here is a bill of materials that you will have to buy. If you assemble these in the right order, it will run our operating system and it will eventually find your printer and your scanner and your modem. So it's everybody everybody took the ball and moved it down the field to get us to this point where we have Macintoshes, and God, how horrible computing would be without the presence of Macintoshes. We have Windows machines, and God, how horrible computing would be if we only could buy the stuff that Apple decided to sell as a window mouse keyboard sort of device. And now we've got mobile devices and on top of that, each with a part of that story that got told. It's amazing.
Well, let's take a break. That's the celebration. Woohoo! Have some cake.
Yay.
We're glad it exists. We are very glad it exists. I hope it continues to exist in the state that it is. It is a wonderful thing. Oh, you're putting it back together. We're going to try to boot it. This is a brave bunch here. Burke is an expert at this kind of stuff. John Slenning is 128K Mac, undergoing a little open heart surgery, but it will be. I hope.
I admire people. I admire people who have the love for the original hardware. I love running the software in emulation.
You can do that on archive.org, by the way.
Yeah, exactly.
Including HyperCard.
I just don't have the patience for, okay, I have to recap everything. And also these mechanical drives are not going to function. Also, the control yoke on this CRT needs to be retuned. Also, everything that's made out of plastic or rubber in here is degrading and off-gassing, and basically we're coming back to Jesus in its component forms. It's like there are people there. There is actually the Mac SE. I'm sorry, we'll go to commercial. I know, but the Mac SE, of course, has the most notorious case of, like, I think a backup battery that's soldered to the board that just goes to hell and corrodes the hell out of the entire board. And there is so much interest in saying, no, I don't want to just use it as a case for a Raspberry Pi running emulation. There are people who have made a clone of the Mac SE30 board so that you can depopulate what's left of your board, install all those components on this brand new design board, and everything will plug in and everything will be completely compatible. And it's not an emulation thing. It's like, no, we basically re-engineered the entire board so that it would be component to component compatible. That is dedication. That is love, man.
We got a couple of guys in our Discord, Club Twit Discord, who are Apple veterans who were there when Jobs was fired, when the Mac was released. And of course, there was a conflict between the Mac division and John Scully's Apple II division. And Scully saw all the money Apple II was making and all the money that Macintosh was costing. And that really was the catalyst for firing Steve and starting off on a very bad note. Very interesting stuff. I'll have to talk to these guys, Don and Bobby. It's nice to have you in our. I heard a beep. I heard a beep. Let's see what that beep pretends. I know.
True.
What was the beep? Just was it a power on self test or anything? No, it didn't do anything. It just beeped.
It's just it's a power on indicator that it's that it, and then it goes to the next screen.
We've come a long way from the beep to the bong. Bong. Although most Macs nowadays have that chime turned off, right, on boot. I think it comes turned off.
You don't want to give away your position. That's a safety feature.
All right, let us take a break, come back. Well, there is news. Actually, quite a bit of news. Just as Apple, we're celebrating the 40th anniversary of the Macintosh, we're about to celebrate the first anniversary of a brand new Apple product. Not an anniversary, the birthday of a brand new Apple product. We'll talk about that in a bit. But first, a word from our sponsor, Delete Me. Have you ever searched for your name online? Oh, that is a eye-opener, an eye-watering eye-opener. You know how much of your personal information is available? Whew. That might be why you'd want to check out Delete Me. They reduce the risk from identity theft, credit card fraud, robocalls, cybersecurity threats, harassment, and generally unwanted communications overall. They can really do it, and I can tell you that because we use Delete Me. It all started when our CEO sent an urgent text message to her direct reports saying, I'm in a meeting right now, but I need you to buy some Amazon gift cards pronto and send them to me. Fortunately, our employees are pretty smart. But the reason that worked is because Lisa's information was public. They could figure out what her title was, what her phone number was, so the text looked real, and who her direct reports were. All of that from data brokers. There are hundreds of them who know everything there is to know about you. Delete Me really works. We immediately signed up. In fact, this is a security issue for any business. Your executives, your managers absolutely need this. The first step, you sign up. You'll have to give them some basic personal information so they know what to remove, obviously. But they're very reliable, very trustworthy. Delete Me experts will find and remove your personal information. They'll do it from hundreds of data brokers, which helps reduce your online footprint and helps keep you safe and your company safe and your family safe. Delete Me then, and this is really important, will continue to scan and remove PII regularly. I'm talking addresses, photos, emails, relatives, phone numbers, social media, property values, and more. And since privacy exposures and incidents affect individuals differently, Delete Me has great privacy advisors who will help you understand what's going on, give you the support you need. Everybody's threat model is different. Use those privacy advisors. Protect yourself, reclaim your privacy, protect your company. Go to joindeleteme.com/twit. When you use the code TWIT, you'll get 20% off. Joindeleteme.com/twit. Don't forget that promo code TWIT at checkout for 20% off. Thank you, Delete Me, for supporting MacBreak Weekly and for keeping us safe. We have none of those. That hasn't happened again since. So I have to think that's where they got that information. It's terrifying. All right, Vision Pro time. Steven, did you order a Vision Pro?
I did, and I got the 1 terabyte version.
Oh, you went all in.
I went all in because I didn't want to be a year in and see a 20-foot wide window in VR tell me my storage was full. Let me just
That's future-proofing. All right, way to go.
I was really trying to get in-store pickup because I wanted an early appointment, but at least here in Central Florida, those appointment times went very quickly.
Yeah,
the
they
payment kept failing, and then it would, kick me back over to schedule a new appointment time. And all the stores in like a 50-mile radius, got to the afternoon times very quickly. So I was like, well, let's just deliver it to me. So it's coming delivery. So we'll see.
All right. Yeah, but did you order eyeglasses for it? You're wearing glasses.
I did. I don't know if I should admit this on the air, but I hadn't had an eye exam in a little while. So I had a prescription. It might not have been as recent as I doctored, no pun intended, the prescription to be. But anyway, I uploaded a prescription. I got Zeiss. And those actually, they approved the prescription like same day. I pre-ordered it Friday morning at 8 a.m. Uploaded my prescription maybe 10 minutes later. And then I'd say about 3 hours later, I got an email from Zeiss saying it's being sent out. They'll be delivered February 2nd at the latest. So I got those coming, and I got every accessory, which we didn't hear about it.
You got the $200 plastic travel case?
I mean,
I
got it all. I make videos about this stuff. I got to get it all.
I guess you have
I got
to.
It all.
Yeah, Spike is offering
sexy battery holder.
They're already third-party.
The battery holder.
Oh man, you did it all. Wow.
And the there was the other thing too. Oh, the Belkin thing. Yeah, that was the battery holder. So I got it all. I got everything.
Well done. Bravo. What was your final bill?
Oh my goodness. Well, I also got monthly Apple Care, but after that, I think it was probably like $4,600 because the accessories themselves was $500 because $200 for a battery, $200 for the travel case, and then like $50 for the Belkin thing. And then,
But it doesn't come with a Vision Pro Light Seal. You have to order that for another $200.
No, it comes with that.
That's
but
a
you can
backup.
buy an extra one.
Oh, yeah, if you have a sweaty forehead. Yeah, sure.
My co-host Jason Aiton, he tried a Vision Pro at WWDC, and he was like, that part of the Vision Pro is probably going to get nasty after a number of months.
Yeah.
And I don't know about the washability of those things yet, so that's why they're selling them separately as well.
Excuse me, but $199 is outrageous, as is $199 for the travel case. Outrageous. That's 50 cents of plastic. That's so annoying.
I mean, the good news is that all the third-party stuff will be out.
Yeah, Spigen already has a case for a lot less.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm glad you...
I thought it was interesting on the travel case. They actually have it written out with the Apple icon and then the words Vision Pro rather than the word Apple Vision Pro. So this seems to go both ways. But I don't know if you guys saw today, the Apple Store app. If you go there, you can now do the augmented reality Vision Pro in your office or whatever. And so I did that, and like, it's going to be pretty big. Like I did the AR thing.
Oh, look, that's cool. Yeah.
And that in the travel case, this is not going to be very travel. I don't know. It's not going to be easy to take around. It's going to be pretty big.
But you did it because it's your job, and I commend you for that. Andy, did you buy...
I cannot afford 35. I posted about this, basically saying that I do not begrudge somebody for having $3,500, $4,000 to spend on a Flutter for this. That's not me right now. I bought the first. I bought the first Newton message pad. I bought the first iPhone. I bought the first iPad. All of those passed a certain test that I put for whenever I'm spending more than a burrito's worth of money on tech. And the thing is, I can't see right now how the Vision Pro is going to solve problems for me, make my life easier, or give me more opportunities, including creative opportunities, like things I would love to develop or things I'd like to create. And so and finally, number 4, my Panic Play Date doesn't do any of that stuff either, but I can swing $200 for a play date. If I'm spending $3,500 on something, it's going to be like on a really great new set of monitors for my office, a great new Mac, all these things will help me, again, create new things, have new ideas, and explore. For now, again, I say for now. That doesn't mean that I'm prejudging the Vision Pro as being something that's not going to be worth $3,500. If I was making 10 times as much money as I am right now, yeah, I'd be in with both fists. Yes.
But Andy, you could have infinite monitors at any size you want all around your office.
That's the beauty of it.
18 monitors.
How heavy?
Yeah, but I don't need another thing. See, my default setting in terms of sloth and inertia is already. I mean, I don't need something that like is going to like me. Oh, actually, I could just like basically be flat on my back on my bed with a split keyboard, playing with basically using 18 different virtual monitors. I like the idea that occasionally like I need to get up and walk. I like the idea that occasionally I have to like shift my focus from one thing to another. I'm so looking forward to reports from people like you and Jason and everybody else about how it's going to be to actually use this in a productive environment. I've seen a lot of like samples about here's what it would be like to be editing videos in this, and it looks, hey, great. I would love to have like 8 different monitors stretched to exactly the right sizes that I want them to be for every task I want to do. I'm just not convinced that I need the firsthand experience from other people to say, but my workday is usually like 2 or 3 hours of work across 2 to 4 different work sessions with maybe a half hour to an hour break in between. Am I going to want to wear this thing on my face through even like a single 3-hour workspace?
Jason, did you hedge your bets and order one just in case you don't get a review unit? Or
Absolutely, yeah. I got up at 5 a.m. and I got up at 5 a.m. to pay $4,000 for something. Yeah, I was really happy about it. And I got up. I was on the East Coast, so I got up at 8. Went through the whole thing, scanned my face. The scanning is exactly like registering for Face ID. Face ID.
Got right to the end of it, gave him my prescription, and then chickened out. I said, I can't. You can't justify this.
I had somebody ask me, like, why did you buy it? Why are you aggressive about buying it? I think the answer is, look, this is a 1.0 hardware that as somebody who covers Apple, I decided that I'm not going to step off of a brand new Apple platform. I got to be there. Like Steven, it's very much like I'm going to be one of those people who's talking about this in the early days and telling you what the deal is. But if I was a regular consumer, right? Like under no circumstances should you buy this as a regular consumer. Is like, is it worth it for me? And not like, yeah, I want it. It's new. It's the new hotness, until at least like reviewers have experienced it. Like I know that if you want to get it on the day of, you're going to spend the money, you're going to get it. And a lot of us are people who like want to be on the bleeding edge. But for most people, like, you want to know, all we know now is what Apple wants us to know. Right. Mm-hmm. And that's fine. That's marketing. But, and the fact that they were able to sell out of their 80,000 on launch day, and there are various estimates. I think Ming-Chi Kuo has an estimate that they may have sold 180,000 of them, which is the demand. And is that all the demand there is? We don't know. But here's the thing. I think there will be more demand from people who are sitting on the sidelines wanting to know what the heck this thing is. But right now, all we have is Apple's word for it. And I think we're going to learn a lot from people like me and Steven and all the YouTubers and everything else who are taking this plunge, where we're going to be honest and say what it does and doesn't do well. And then I think there's a whole other wave of people who are waiting for that. So I don't blame anybody for saying that's a lot of money for something where I have to take it on faith from only Apple marketing about what this product is.
By the way, if you want to get it now, there's a month lag. I checked the other day, and it was pushed out till March. Micah Sargent also ordered one. He has an in-store fitting, so he'll be able to go into the store. Did you get an in-store fitting, Jason, or are you getting yours shipped like Steven?
No, I'm going to get it shipped here because I'm an antisocial maniac.
Yeah, I don't want to go to the store and watch a half hour.
And if it doesn't fit, then I've got the Corte Madera store is one exit up the freeway. So if it doesn't fit, I'll deal with it, but I don't want to talk
good.
to
We'll have Micah. I'm trying to figure out if I can get Mike's a camera crew in with Micah to I doubt they'll let me shoot the delivery. But anyway, go ahead, Steven.
It was an interesting thing in the Apple Store app earlier today. It actually said check back today at 3 p.m. Eastern, so about 20 minutes ago, for more availability. And so it seems I'd never seen that before for an Apple product. And so it seems like maybe they're going to open up some more in-store pickups right now as we record. So if you see me looking weird in every direction,
okay, you can do it.
I'm gonna go check it in.
Just say, "Hey, I'm doing it now." Oh, I'm gonna check it because you want to get it in store. You should.
Yeah.
Set up a little spy camera on your forehead or something. And he's doing it. Look at he's doing it. He's doing it now. There he is.
That was the first scan.
You have to do that, or you have to order another one to get it in store.
Glasses
you have to scan every time. Yeah, you have to do this every time.
And you have to send him your phony prescription.
There we go. No, it's my real prescription. It's my real prescription.
I know it works. You can see now, so it'll work. So there are on eBay right now 17,000 plus listings for Vision Pro. Let me see. Let's get it in sort by price. Just I'm curious what the highest price is. No, I'm not going to buy an 18,000. Here we go. Here's $10,000. No, you'd have to be insane. $9,000.
Don't do it.
Don't do it. Nope. If you just sort it more reasonably, by however I had it sorted before, there are even some at 4,500. There's I mean, I guess that's $1,000 premium, isn't it?
Yeah.
$6,000.
It says check back later for availability, by the way.
Okay, so keep checking. Okay. Here's one for $2,600. I think that's probably a lie. I wouldn't buy it for $1,000 less.
No.
Yeah. Here's a $2,000 one.
Oh, God.
Well, for a terabyte. You know what? That's such a good deal. I'm going to go right. Chew Diddy one wouldn't lie to me, would he?
Diddy one.
check to see. I think we have to keep checking AliExpress to see like how fast that they're making the knockoff Android version of this that looks exactly like that and is packaged exactly like that. I'm sure it's coming because they've
that may be what you're buying.
Phones, they've clobbered everything.
Yeah. Anyway, well, that's exciting. A week from tomorrow, you'll get it. A week from Friday, rather, you'll get it. And so in 2 weeks, we'll have our first looks on the show, and we're going to get Ray Maxwell's getting one. I imagine Alex Lindsay will have one. Jason will have one. Mike will have one. We'll have a bunch of people sitting around the table with scary eyes looking at you.
Yeah, can't wait.
I'll be the only one that looks normal. I'll be very curious. I personally am very skeptical. One of the immediate downsides, Mark Gurman noted this, is that Spotify, Netflix, and YouTube have all declined to make a custom app for the Vision Pro. This is their revenge, by the way, for Apple's 30% VIG in the store. They're going,
to have their iPad app available. They've withheld their iPad apps, which you have to opt out to get them out of the store, and they have done so. Netflix recently, in fact, Apple apparently had been using the iPad app, people inside Apple, and then suddenly they revoked that as well. So you're right, that is kind of the revenge. I mean, there's a web browser and all that, but this is an example of Apple not having, like, why do they want to support Apple's platforms, especially if they feel like the benefit is to Apple and not to them? So I get it.
I think it's also a simple case of they know that look, this is what's the upside for us. Even if you think that it's just how easy is it going to be to make an Apple Vision Pro version of the Netflix app or the YouTube app? It's human resources, it's money resources, it's time, it's support resources. But even if you say, well, all I have to do is like do nothing and people will be able to run the iPad app. Well, no, there's still going to be people who are going to be calling in Netflix support, YouTube support, saying, hey, I've got an Apple Vision Pro and this is not working correctly the way that I want it to. It's and all to reach into what will probably be a max of 500,000 users the first year. I don't think it's not like it's going to be like a life of the product bananation. It's more like, look, we got other things to do. We got our own like antitrust suits that we're trying to fight here. We got our own subscriber problems we're dealing with. Like, we don't need this. And I'm glad Apple and Disney sitting in a tree, KASSING. I'm glad like you're really, really happy to be working together on Vision Pro. Have fun with it. Enjoy the Safari experience on Netflix, because that's pretty much all we can do for you right now.
I saw somewhere that there are at this time 170 Vision Pro apps, which is a good number. It's been Alex Lindsay's contention that this is the thing a developer should jump on, because the people who spend that much money for a device are going to be hungry for apps to run on it at any price. So this is a great opportunity for a developer to have an app ready.
I don't think it pencils out unless you're selling your app for like 20 or 30 bucks a head. I don't think it pencils out necessarily. And I think the counter argument might be that if somebody, weird psychology thing here, somebody spends $3,500 and up on a headset, maybe they actually are like, do I really want to throw more money at this thing, rather than I have all the money in the world and it doesn't matter. However, I think one of the arguments here is, if you're a small developer especially, is first off, you will get Apple's attention, and that's in this case, a good thing. You will get Apple's marketing attention. There are a lot of developers out there who adopt new Apple platforms and new Apple features on day one or before day one, and they get promoted, they get used in videos, they get on stage at WWDC. There are benefits to being in Apple's good graces about marketing. And secondly, if you've got a bunch of people who are diehards who are trying this thing out, and your app is there, and you also have an app for iPhone or iPad or whatever, you can increase the visibility of your more kind of high volume app that's on a platform that's used by more people, and that can benefit you too. So there are some arguments to be made, but the bottom line is, if you're selling a $4 app or something, and there are only going to be 400,000 of these, how much time should you put in? That's the question.
Yeah.
So what is the difference between watching Netflix in Safari, which you will be able to do, and say watching a Disney movie in the Disney Plus app? It's still a screen, right? It's not
downloads. You can't download.
So you can't download in Netflix. Disney's going to have those immersive backgrounds, and Disney will have 3D movies that you will be able to watch, and that won't be the case with Netflix. So there are a bunch of reasons. I think Netflix in the browser will be fine, but as Steven said, no downloads, which is bad for the whole watch a movie on a plane thing that Apple is selling people on.
Yeah.
Right, because I'm actually flying in March to Podcast Movement, and I will have the Vision Pro. And my plan to try to use it on a plane, I was going to be probably the only wild-looking person on there. But I will
it's going to be a Marvel movie, Steven. That's what it's going to be now. It's going to be Thor 2.
Oh God!
Don't watch Thor 2.
This just confirms my choice.
That's no problem. Just load it on an SD card, or I'm sorry, a micro SD card, and use the micro SD card slot on the side.
I will say, as soon as I get mine, I'm going to be plugging,
folks, just in case you get excited.
I'm sorry.
I'm going to plug a USB-C hub into that battery pack on the Vision Pro, because I want to know what you can actually use.
Oh, that'd be interesting. Yeah.
There is a Files app on the Vision Pro.
Oh, so maybe
can you connect an SSD?
You could bring your movies on an SSD, which you plug into your battery, which you then.
Developers apparently have had like a USB-C strap that attaches, that lets you tether it to Xcode on a Mac, and I don't know whether that will ever be available. And if that's the only way you can do USB, or if there's something with the USB pass-through that will actually let you do it. But there are some questions about access, because it probably is all just going to be cloud-based. But there will be video. I mean, mark my words, right? Like, there will be a video player app like there is for the Quest, where you can go out to a UPnP server or just an SMB share and take a file and download it and put it in there. I mean, those apps, if they aren't already in the store, they will be. Generic video player apps like, Plex-like things, VLC, those will all be there. Yeah.
One of the challenges for me is to make a video on this. You can AirPlay what you see in Vision Pro to like a Mac and even to an iPhone and iPad. And so I could record the AirPlay stream, but there's going to be a lot of latency there, and it's going to be low res. I want to know, can I connect this HDMI out so I can maybe screen record that? I don't know.
I remember in the early days of the iPhone, they made a really fancy rig that was Apple only to show the iPhone screen. I remember Alex Lindsay talking about trying to duplicate that. Eventually, you were able to get video out of the iPhone, but it took years.
I actually wonder if you'll be able to do screen recording, Stephen, and if that might be the best way to
wouldn't
do
that
it
be
is
great?
to turn on screen recording, and then it'll just save it to your capacious 1 terabyte of storage, and then you can get it off of there later. Maybe
I got that 1 terabyte. I'm just saying.
I will say external storage for your iPad.
I do have some concerns for smaller developers because it's iPad apps that can run on Vision Pro natively. You can just leave the box checked. But I've talked to some developers who have iPad apps and use the Apple Pencil as a main point of using the application, whatever those features may be. And the Vision Pro, it's going to be a very different input method. And if I want to edit podcasts like I do on iPad in Vision Pro, I don't know how that's going to work with just pinch gestures and like doing this to zoom.
I can tell you one
track.
thing: you're going to have a splitting headache at the end of the day.
Maybe that's the big question for me is the ergonomics, right? Like people are like, oh, what do you think about the software? It's like, okay, well, one is the weight is going to be question number one, right? Like that is the most important thing.
And already some reviewers have said, now they haven't been allowed the reviewers to wear the top strap, but some reviewers have already said, including Marquez Brownlee, wow, this thing is heavy. Although ironically, it's not heavier than the Quest Pro, but the Quest Pro has a top strap that offload some of the weight. So you'll definitely want, and I'm sure, Steven, since you bought all the accessories, you bought the weight offloading.
Well, it comes with two. It comes with both straps.
It comes with it. Oh, good. Okay.
That's a bargain.
Yeah, they discovered that for extended use, you got to have the top strap, right? You for like off and on easy casual stuff, they've got that nice padded back strap, but I think they've discovered that you gotta have the actual proper strap if you want to use this for any length of time. But we don't know, and nobody's really outside of Apple used it for more than 30 minutes. So we'll see. The other thing, by the way, that I'm skeptical about based on my 30 minutes with it back in June is the viability of that screen in terms of text. Like they were like, oh, look at how good the text is in Safari and you're scrolling web pages. And I'm like, I don't know. I mean, if you do the math of the two screens and the size of these windows and the space that you're in and of that's being covered by those two screens, it's not like Retina text. It's kind of grainy. And so I think there's a real question of this whole productivity thing is about putting windows everywhere and being able to use them. But like, is it, are you really going to do that? Or is that going to make your head hurt because the text isn't clear enough? I don't know.
Yeah. I'm also still concerned about the fundamental issue of you're asking your eyes to focus on an object that is like an inch or two away from physically, that is virtually several feet away, and that this is a well-documented problem where it causes eye strain, it causes a lot of people headaches. It's just a no-go.
Virtual VR sickness. That's the
and Apple. Neither Apple nor anybody I've talked to has indicated that, oh, don't worry, we've made the breakthrough that solves this problem.
They haven't. Everybody says it's frame rate. It ain't frame rate. You're exactly right. It's a difference. Again, you have two systems for determining distance. Right. Walter Murch pointed this out years ago. You have two systems for the eye convergence and what was the other one? I can't remember.
And focus. Basically, two sets of muscles where exactly you have muscles that are basically pivoting your eyes in and out to target to converge on the object. You also have muscles that are actually basically adjusting focus.
And your body, if those don't match, your body says, "Oh, you ate something bad. You better throw it up now." You're tripping balls, man, and that is something nobody is addressed. Everybody says, oh, frame rate will fix that. They have a lot of hand waving. I'm not convinced. U.S. Air Force, when it was doing simulators, did a lot of testing. They said there's about 11% of people who use these simulators will have VR sickness, which could last as long as 24 hours. They said, we don't let them drive cars after they use the simulator for another day. And I think any consumer product that makes somebody, 11% of the public sick, is doomed, if you ask me. Go ahead, Stephen, say why we're wrong.
No. I just want to challenge Jason to write a 5,000-word piece on the virtual keyboard in
No, dude. No.
He's going to come on. He's going to come on the show. One eyeball will be pointing this way. One eyeball will be pointing that way.
I'll tell you. I think text input's interesting. I think that virtual keyboard is probably going to be terrible.
It's one. Somebody said it's one key at a time, right? It doesn't chord.
Yeah. You're just doing this basically.
You look at the key and you
understanding.
Pinch.
They didn't show it to us, which is it's a real sign when they didn't show it to us. I think our voice is going to be more important, right? Like you're gonna opt to either use an external keyboard or you're gonna use your voice to do some input. I think those are the most likely ways. Typing on in outer space is not gonna be. It's funny too because the way they're doing it is very iPhone-like. I don't know. Again, I only used it for half an hour and they didn't let me do anything I wanted. I was going through their demo. But like I am struck by the fact that it's like an iPhone keyboard floating in space that you do this to. I would think that you'd be better off, putting it can see your fingers, right? I would think you would be better off typing on a virtual keyboard where it's basically mapping your finger location to a keyboard.
But apparently they didn't do that.
I don't look at my keyboard when I type, and I'm doing this, and could they figure that out? And maybe they tried it and they couldn't get it to work, but like doing this is not going to cut it.
Yeah, I saw a sample. I can't remember whether it was provided by, it must have been provided by Apple, but a sample of here's what a workspace might look like. And it wasn't just simply this person using the virtual keyboard. It was using the video pass through so that they're using a physical keyboard, they're using a physical mouse, and they can use the video pass through to orient their fingers on the keyboard. Again, I don't know what trying to interact with real objects, even at super high frame rate 4K video. I don't know if if you've got a physical keyboard in front of you, you are not into, let me just dash off a few emails before I slay some orcs in 3D space. It's no, you have brought this to your hotel room or to your Amtrak seat, to a table someplace to actually do productive work. And we're going to find out exactly what the productivity story is going to be on it. A lot
of these questions will be solved, of course, after February 2nd. But the bigger question is going to take longer to solve, which is, what is this for? It took a couple of years before the Apple Watch really figured out what it was for. Some people, I've heard people say, well, it needs a killer app. We don't know what that might be at this point. Is it for entertainment, watching movies? Is it for productivity? Is it for playing games? What is this for, and what are people, getting the most value out of? I as you know, I'm the skeptic in the bunch, and it's actually career suicide for me not to buy one, because if you're a YouTuber, you damn well better buy one, right, Stephen? Because you're gonna be surrounded by YouTubers going, wow, amazing, whoa. Or there'll be a whole bunch of people saying, it was crap. I knew it was going to be crap, but they'll all have one, and they'll all have the scary eye look on their thumbnails. And I'm sitting here saying I am going to stand by my original thought, which is it's not worth the money, and I'm not going to buy it, which really leaves me out.
It's going to be a lot like the original Apple Watch, where it's going to take a year or two to see what do people actually want this for. What do people find the most value? But I think two use cases, because I've been trying to think like what are the killer apps or whatever, one that gets cheaper and it might be accessible to things like schools. I remember when I was younger, planetarium experiences. I remember having those as a kid, and it was like really affecting. And
Stephen, no school is going to buy a device that requires one per kid that has to fit.
Cheaper, when it's cheaper and it's accessible.
So my answer to this, which everybody says, but Leo, it's just the first, it's going to great, and it's going to be important, is it's like you're trying to sell me a car with square wheels. I'll wait till the round wheel version comes along. I'm not convinced.
Sure.
So there's a lot of speculation. This is going to be a great platform someday. Okay, fine. When it is, I'll let you know. I don't think what we're seeing today is a great platform, but I could be wrong. I'm willing to be wrong. Unfortunately, I'm surrounded by people who are spending $3,500 to find out.
Yep.
Or in your case, Stephen, $4,500.
Again, this is going to be so fun to explore and to play with. But I think this is why the reviews are going to be kind of interesting, because I think that the best reviews are going to have to keep both ideas in mind. That this is 1.0 of something. On the other hand, this isn't like Google Glass where Google was explicitly, this is an experiment that we're playing with. We don't know if we have something here. That's why we're making this in limited quantities for
edition. Yeah,
exactly. Apple is saying, hey, come into our store and buy this completely ready $3,000 to $3,500 consumer device. It's like, okay, that means that if the keyboard sucks, I have to say this keyboard totally sucks. And the first and last paragraphs of the review are going to have to be, you just pray to God that in a year Apple will find its car keys and figure out how to make this thing work if they don't get it hit out of the bat the first pitch.
I honestly think that no sensible reviewer at this point will say, you need to buy this.
No.
Yep.
No, I mean there'll be some hype, but this is for people on the. I mean, I could write the review now in some ways, right? Because this is the best case scenario is this is promising and it's for people on the cutting edge, and it might turn into something, but nobody's really sure what. And we don't you shouldn't feel any shame if you're not ready to step on board yet. Like I said, at least there will be reviews and you will get some idea from that. And then even then, I mean, in 1977, they put out personal computers and they cost a lot of money and they didn't do anything. And it was okay for almost everyone in the world to say, I'll check back in 10 years. And it's okay. It's okay.
I want to take a little break. Let me take a little break and we'll come back and then hold your thoughts, Stephen, and you're next. But I do want to take a little break here as you watch MacBreak Weekly. Jason Snell, Andy Iannacco, filling in for Alex Lindsay this week, the great Stephen Robles. The Bearded Teacher at is it beard.com?
Beard.fm.
FM, that's right.
Radio Beard.
Radio Beard. And PrimaryTech.fm. What's Primary Tech? You didn't mention that last time.
New tech show that I launched with Jason Aten. He's a technology writer at Inc.com. And so, new show, podcast, YouTube, all that. Yeah.
You've already scooped us on the Vision Pro, but you don't just do Mac stuff. I see you have an S24. We're trying
to expand our technology world. We did some Samsung Galaxy stuff,
nice,
but still very Apple.
Yeah. Well, it's great to have you. Thank you, Stephen. I always love having you on the show. This is the part where I beg. I say, please give us your money. You see how frugal I am being? I did not buy a Vision Pro. Well, okay, Micah did, but we've actually told Micah you can buy. How long does he have to return it? A week, a month, a year?
I think you have 30 days.
30 days. We told
14,
Micah, buy it and return it in 30 days, and you can do as many reviews as you want between now and then, because frankly, money's tight, and we want to keep the lights on, we want to keep the shows going, and most importantly, we want to keep people like Micah employed. We've had to cut back quite a bit because advertising revenue is completely plummeted, and you're seeing this across the board, not just podcasts. Sports Illustrated just kind of basically fired everybody. I mean, this is a bad time for some reason for advertising. I think all the money's going to you, Steve, and it's all going to YouTube influencers. But I don't know. Anyway,
I don't get any sponsorships. No, I just do AdSense.
Okay, there you go. All right, but actually doing it using Google and YouTube and so forth is probably a decent plan. Our plan is a little different. We really like the idea. I from day one have wanted to do this, but the infrastructure wasn't there of having our audience support us. That's why we created Club Twit. We've tried to keep it affordable, $7 a month. We've also tried to keep it desirable. So for $7 a month, you get ad-free versions of everything we do, including shows we don't put out in public, like iOS Today is now behind the paywall, hands-on Macintosh, hands-on Windows, Scott Wilkinson's Home Theater Geeks. All of that is on the Twit Plus feed. Actually, they each have individual feeds. There's a Twit Plus feed with content before and after the shows. And my favorite part of the membership is this great Club Twit Discord, where you can join with our hosts, our producers, our guest hosts, and chat and talk about the things you care about, not just the shows, but everything. All of that for $7 a month. I think we give you a pretty good value, but it makes such a difference to us. Your $7 a month means we can continue doing what we do, and going forward, that's what it's going to take. We're going to need to see some real growth in the club. We're going to need to hear from you. Right now, it's less than 2% of the people listening to this show right now support us through the club. I'd like to get that. It doesn't have to be all of you, and if you can't afford it, I understand. But if we can get that to 5%, we don't have to worry about advertising. So if you are not yet a member, please do me a favor. Go to twit.tv/club. Twit. By the way, where you're on the Twit page, do the survey too, twit.tv/survey24. There's only about a week left on the survey. We want to get everybody from every show who listens to every show responding, because we want to get a good representation, especially for you MacBreak Weekly listeners and viewers. So twit.tv/survey24. Take the survey. Just take a couple of minutes. That's one way you can support us. The other way, join the club, twit.tv/club twit. We thank you for your support. All right. Did you hold your thought? Did you put a pin in it, Stephen, or should we move on?
No, I did. Just real quick, I'm curious what everybody's thought. I looked back for when the Apple Watch launched. It was a new product category for Apple. The reviews from people like The Verge and everybody came out April 8th. pre-orders were after that on April 10th, and then the watch was available April 24th. So we had full-on reviews 2 weeks before even, you would have it in hand. All we have are some Instagram photos from influencers and like Al Roker wearing the Apple Vision Pro.
Taken by Apple.
Yes.
Yeah, by the way, that's a good point. When Apple invited people in, they wouldn't let you take pictures yourself. And no, none of the pictures have the battery pack. And for some reason, everybody's sitting down, which really worries me. I hope this isn't a sit-down only experience.
There was one guy standing up in like a Matrix style coat in his photos, but it was just one. He was just one guy doing that.
Hey, I'm wearing a long coat. Could I stand up, please?
You got to respect the coat.
You gotta respect the coat.
Yeah.
Are we going to see early reviews of this thing before February 2nd, or is this just going to be kind of an Apple curated PR thing until then, until the launch date?
And isn't that a little suspicious when Apple doesn't let people see the reviews before they buy?
Ooh, I don't know. I think I do think we're not going to see formal reviews, and I think we're going to 2 days before people actually start getting them, before people start actually going into the stores, which is par for the course. Like imagine like Tuesday or Wednesday at the latest. Because I mean, Apple has to know that they can't make enough for, if the worst thing would be if they had an immense amount of demand. It's kind of a blessing in disguise that if all these supply chain issues are true, that they can only make about 500,000 a year, because that means that the only people that are going to be buying them are the people who are really super motivated to own one of these things.
There's a confirming data point there. I expected to see massive ad campaign for this thing, and the only ad I've seen so far is very, very low key. It's just a bunch of people wearing headsets, from Geordi in Star Trek to Obi-Wan Kenobi putting a headset on Luke Skywalker, to Iron Man, and then it says, and the implication is the future is coming, but it's not a hard sell on Vision Pro. It just, briefly says Vision Pro. Now maybe Super Bowl Sunday there'll be something more, but but this is on all the NFL playoffs. I thought I'd see a lot more. I think you're right, Andy. I think that's Apple saying we don't need to sell this thing. We've already sold it out, basically.
Yeah, I mean, again, when we started the show talking about people who were so bedazzled by the Mac that, hey, I am willing to do incredibly complicated surgery to get a lot more storage into this thing. Those are the sort of people that are still buying Macs to this day. I think the first generation are going to be on two sides of the spectrum. People who are just either, whether they're Apple people or not, they are just really excited about the latest and greatest. That their only expectations is to have an adventure, to have an experience with this. And the people who are like grizzled, beaten down by life, like reporters and reviewers, who are like, but it does nothing. The goggles, they do nothing. So it's going to be a year. Remember when everybody who has one like in February, like Steven and Jason, like you can look forward to exactly like what I went through when I had like one of the first e-bikes. Like you become a unpaid brand ambassador. Hey, is that one of those bikes that has an electric motor? Like, yeah, it is. Like, what kind of range you get? Oh, usually about 20 to 30, depends on how's it right. And I can still like quote like the spiel of every single question you get, because just like with the first iPhone, which was not sophisticated enough to be competitive on a line item basis, it was not a competitive product with other smartphones of the day. It was completely unusable for a lot of people. Like if you were using a phone at enterprise, it was absolute no sale. However, for the first 2 years or 3 years that it took to get to there, people who were not interested in buying it right now were around people who were using it and who got those little demos, and who from ordinary human beings who are like, oh yeah, no, I really do. The keyboard is not really that great. I really wish it has cut and copy paste. I kind of miss having an app store, but here's what I can do with media. Here's how interesting it is to use with a camera. And so they're primed so that when it comes time for them to buy their next phone, maybe the next phone is going to be on their list. Now that's not totally applicable, because it's not like, oh gosh, I kind of like my existing VR goggles, but I'm considering getting the Apple VR. No, you have to sell people on the idea of, you have to give them the memory of 2 years ago when they're at your friend's house and you're playing Beat Saber or whatever the killer Vision Pro game is going to be, or the time when you actually got a chance to like see what it was like to surf the web with this sort of thing and create your own sort of workspace with it. And at that point, it will be hopefully like a $900 device with a good app store, with just like with the Apple Watch, Apple saying, okay, turns out we were completely wrong as to what this thing was for. We have adjusted our development of this thing to make it do the things that people are actually using it for. And at that point, you'll get the people's $900 or $1,100.
Yeah, it's going to be harder too, because like iPhone, Apple Watch, someone asks like, hey, what is that? Can I see it? They literally just look at it. Whereas the Apple Vision Pro, if someone asks like, hey, can I see that? I'm like, no. You can't put this on your face.
You can't
exactly. Let me see your inoculation card. First. Secondly, let's go to see if you
also you got your lenses
bunch
in
of topical things.
Although I guess you could pop those out pretty easily, and then that's why you buy an extra $200 forehead piece, because let me put this guest forehead on the
everybody's going to know how to put it into guest mode really quickly, because that's going to be a thing. Yeah,
it does have a guest mode. Yeah. And by the way, Scooter X had a really good point. He said tequila also makes a certain percentage of the people throw up. They still drink it. So I guess this is like tequila for your eyes. That's not going to be a good slogan. I don't think.
Show title?
No title.
I'll endorse that.
Actually, I was lobbying for Cook's Folly, but I know that that's insulting to people who have spent so much money.
That's prejudging it.
I have prejudged it. I admit, totally biased against it. Prejudged it. I've tried the other VR helmets, and I've decided I don't need a nerd helmet, and I don't think Apple is going to do anything that makes it better except make it more expensive, which really doesn't help.
Yeah, it's kind of disappointing, because we're seeing some more video from the Rabbit AI handheld device, and
that's intriguing. $200.
Exactly. And a lot of people saying, okay, oh my God, look at the latency of that. And oh my God, they really haven't shown how well it will interact with Spotify or with all my things. They still haven't really gone into it. However, the basic premise of the thing is that, basically, instead of having like using multiple apps inside a phone as my interface to the entire world, I can just simply have a brief interaction with this little handheld device that's designed by teenage engineering. And so there are a lot of problems with it, and a lot of things that have been decided, but a lot of people can immediately see, gee, that kind of would be, I kind of want to more see that as an app on my phone, but I kind of get how, at least with this first version, they're saying that, well, what if you kept your phone in your pocket all the time or left it at home because you just occasionally have to have a conversation with this thing? Whereas with the Vision Pro, like Steven said, someone has to figure out why they even want this sort of thing, and they can't say games, because if they say games, they say, oh, well, there's this other game platform that's a third of the price and is already being really well supported by, and actually that does also play Netflix and YouTube, and you can also have a virtual screen in that. That's going to be Apple's hardest sell, which is, I keep saying that this could be the next iPhone, but this could be the next Newton message pad, in that it gets people interested in the concept of this thing and aware of the concept of this thing. But then as soon as Palm OS comes by, say, yeah, how about if this cost a quarter of the amount? This could fit inside your pocket. You could develop your own apps for it, and you could actually use it and afford it. What if we throw out everything that was a cool engineering demo, but didn't actually make it more practical? Like, that's what Apple could be facing. Hopefully they'll be the person who make that device, just like the Mac basically made no point to having an Apple Lisa. They could create the Vision Teddy, Vision Steve, the Vision Gloria.
Right. I think it's more likely
the same thing for the Vision Pro.
Newton, and I bought a bunch of Newtons. It's more likely like the Newton than it is like, let's say, the iPod Hi-Fi.
Look, I have been saying this for a while now, which is, I think Apple started this project, and that Apple believes that the biggest threat to the iPhone in the long term is a pair of actual glasses you can wear that have augmented reality overlaid on them. And the only way that you could make that product is by starting now, and that they want to be the ones who replace themselves if that comes to fruition. If it doesn't, if it's something else, so be it. Apple's got a lot of money, and they are trying to protect their, the iPhone, or build its replacement if they have to. So I do think, and there have been some stories to this effect, I do think that the long-term end game for Apple is a pair of reasonably sized glasses that people can wear in public, and that will have that whole, I mean, you can see it in the way they demo this now. They want you to use AR as much as possible. I think that that is their ultimate goal. And Apple, they are so profitable. They are so flush with cash, and that they can afford to make bets like that. There's a story we haven't even talked about yet about how apparently Apple has scaled back and changed its strategy with the car. But that the car project is a similar thing where it's like Apple has, and Google and Facebook, like they all have so much money that they can afford to a certain degree to place bets. And I think the Vision Pro, I don't think that there are many people at Apple who believe that the future is a big thing on your face that completely closes you off from the world, and that maybe they can pipe some of the world back through. But the technology to do what they want isn't going to be ready for 5 or 10 or 15 years. It's just not. And they figure the way that they'll get there is by shipping this thing, learning how the software works, learning how people use it, pushing display technology forward, and eventually getting where they want to go. And if that's true, then again, what I've been saying all along today, which is there's no shame in you not using a 1.0 bit of hardware in a relatively new category, because, maybe waiting 5 years is the right answer. Maybe even Apple thinks that.
Yeah, it does make, that's an excellent point. It does make me wonder, like, why they didn't decide to go in completely the opposite direction with the same thing, because you can make there is display technology that can simply overlay into your peripheral vision, into a corner of your spectacles, monochrome, high resolution, very, very readable, very, very presentable text, even color text, again, through clear lenses, so that you are still seeing the world. You're just getting sort of like an Apple Watch experience of, oh, by the way, here is something that's happening that maybe you want to keep an eye on, or I'm going to interact. You say that you want me to schedule something for you, or you want to take a note. Here is my feedback to you on how well I'm helping you doing that undertaking. They could make that would be very, very possible. And Google was kind enough to buy a company that was making really great eyeglass technology like that, and then just use it for one demo at their developer conference last year, and now they seem to have buried it. But I wonder why this discussion was, no, let's make this really aggressive, immersive virtual reality goggles that are where the first half hour of any conversation is going to be, there's no way I can be seen in public wearing this. Also, this is cutting me off from the entire world, and I don't want this.
You're kind of in their test lab. And I think I 100% agree with you, Jason. That makes perfect sense. And there was no way they could really develop this without releasing a product, even though it isn't anywhere near the final vision or the final product or anything most people would ever want. That's not the issue. You're basically 180,000 of you are agreeing to be not guinea pigs. That's not a good beta testers for a product that is going to come out 10 years from now.
We didn't used to call it beta testing, but I think that's the right concept. Is very early in a product cycle, you're going to get this, and I think that's okay. I think what they want,
it's okay as long as everybody understands that's what it is.
Well, right, and I think the reviews will say that, for the most part, and that'll be a good thing. But I think what Apple wants to do, and what they hope is, even if they know that this is just the beginning and there's a long way for them to go, what they want is for people to discover some good use cases in the meantime. This is a little like HoloLens being like, you'll use it in businesses for CAD applications.
That Microsoft has basically abandoned HoloLens. This was a very expensive. They went all in on it. They pushed it to the army. They pushed it to business, and it's really, I think, at this point you can say a flop. It's gone.
Right. So and Meta is sort of saying, well, we're going to just keep trying with social, but in the meantime, there's also games. Actually,
Meta is saying, in the meantime, there's also AI, and we're going to divert $10 billion a year from VR to AI because it didn't happen.
Right. But I would say for Apple, again, think about the fact that Apple is always thinking, and they should always be thinking.
Absolutely.
What replaces the
What's
iPhone?
Next? Yep.
And the great Steve Jobs way, be our own replacement. And I think they're worried that some sort of glass thing is ultimately, we don't need smartphones anymore because the display lives right in front of us. Yep. And if that is the case, but what they want in the meantime is for this to be useful in some way, right? Like you can't do 10 years of a product that nobody wants for anything. So the 3D movies and maybe it's productivity and like the killer app for it may be not as killer as like good enough to give it some applications that make it have a little bit of an audience in order to keep it alive while they figure it out.
Why are they not pushing gaming harder? Why are they pushing productivity in movies, but not gaming so much? I mean, that's really been what VR has been all about. It
feels to me like it's an internal struggle at Apple, because there will be games on it.
Yeah.
And I wonder if who won that struggle of no, we're going to go out and call it spatial computing and say it's a computer, and not do even optional
choice.
Like controllers and things like that, because it would be, and maybe they felt like, look, Meta already did that and they're not doing that great, so we need to take another stab at it. But clearly there were some real, I don't want to say political, philosophical, I think, arguments about what this product should be. And having something holding in your hands a controller is something that they didn't want to do. Having the default experience be with the cameras on, looking out at your actual space instead of in a virtual world. Somebody won that argument as well, that they didn't want this to be a totally closed off kind of environment with games in it. So but they may be wrong. I mean, that's, again, we all have experienced this who write and talk about Apple, is that you criticize Apple sometimes and you're not hoping that somebody within Apple who made a decision is going to be like, Jason really convinced me. What happens is that argument's already happening.
Yeah.
And then when you start to criticize Apple, the people who lost the argument get to say, see, I told you so. So I think, what we may see with Vision Pro in the next year or two is discovery that some of those philosophical arguments that they had over the last 5 years inside Apple, the I told you so is going to be customers reject your premise, right? And then they'll have to recalibrate. And I have great faith, I think, in Apple being smart enough to take that for a product like this and go with it, of like, oh, we got that wrong, because they did it. They actually did it with the Apple Watch. So I think that we're going to see a lot of that. I hope we're going to see a lot of that in the next couple of years, is a repudiation of some of the assumptions that Apple makes. It's the kind of thing that only happens once you ship a product. You got to ship it.
Right.
And then we'll see.
They got to throw the dice.
In the Apple newsroom article, when they announced pre-orders, after they talked about the UI and experiences, there's 3 sections of third-party apps and other things. Mm-hmm. And the order is productivity, entertainment, and gaming. In that order, in the newsroom press release. And the first third-party apps that they mention is Fantastical, FreeSpace's first party, Microsoft 365, and Slack. And no shade to any of those apps, Slack in VR is not the killer app.
Nor is your calendar. Why would you put on a helmet to look at your calendar?
Well, I think the idea is that if you can find a compelling, probably a collaboration environment, like using Freeform or something, where you're working with somebody or you're doing something, and that's a big if, right? You could do something like that. Then having your calendar off to the side and your Slack off to the side would be helpful, because you don't have to mode switch. But it's not the center, right? It's the peripheral. I wonder if we'll start talking about apps in your peripheral vision, because that's kind of what we're talking about here. So you look over and then you look back at what you're working on. I think but Stephen, the funny thing is games is third, but in June at WWDC, games was whatever last is, right? They showed one game in their demo, and it was an iPad game running in a window. So they have actually, they're talking more about games than they did in June. It's still not a lot, but it's more.
I have to say, Steven's being generous, because if you go through this press release, as you said, and I've gone through every 3D movies, blah, 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 immersive entertainment experiences, blah, 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 Alicia Keys' rehearsal room. And then the last thing, it's almost a footnote, even more on the App Store and Apple Arcade. And even then, they're showing you how you can walk around with dinosaurs. Yeah, and there's no picture of a game at all.
So there's one more, the newsroom article before that. That was the entertainment press release specifically. Okay. The one that announced the pre-orders. The only games it mentions is NBA 2K24, Sonic Dream Team, What the Golf, and Super Fruit Ninja. Those are the only games.
These are basically mobile games, right? These are not.
Feels very iPad launch too, where it's like they've got their preferred partners. But as far as I can tell, that Super Fruit Ninja, that is a hand tracking VR game. What the Golf, although that was an iPad and iPhone game, that company has done a VR game on the Meta Quest. So they seem to be adapting their golf game for a VR or AR experience on. Some of those are real VR or AR experiences that are made for Vision Pro.
Okay.
But again, they listed 4. Those may be the 4.
Yeah.
And to your point, Leo, none of those games are shown in this press release in the screenshots or videos. They show the App Store scrolling by, but you don't see any screenshots of the actual games.
Yeah, it's almost a footnote. New gaming experiences. It's practically a footnote to the.
But that's up from 0, so it's a little sign. They're like, oh, should we mention games other than showing, I think, NBA being played on an iPad window? Yeah. I guess so.
I think I'm going to recontextualize my snottiness, because I think you're right on, Jason. I think you nailed it, which is this is something they have to do to get to where they want to be. It's not for me. I'm not going to buy it. I don't need to buy it. I'm not going to get all excited about it. And for those of you, it'll be 500,000 by the end of the year who do buy it. It'll be your chance to kind of shape what it eventually becomes. The problem I see is that a lot of the technologies to make this be something as like your spectacles don't exist. The battery technologies.
Yeah.
My new car has a heads-up display, which I really, really like. It shows the speed. I can see the road. And even when I'm looking at my songs, I can see my playlist and I can scroll through it, a thumb wheel on the. So there are, that's a very cool use of that. I can still see the road. I'm still driving, but it's a little window that shows me some stuff instead of looking down at a screen to my right. But that technology exists. But to put it in your spectacles, we got a ways to go. And maybe it's more a hardware thing than anything else.
Yeah. Gurman did a story where he basically said there was a design group at, we talked about this, a design group at Apple that was really devoted to the glasses idea. And what lost them the argument in the end was not the philosophy of it. It was that tech wasn't going to be ready to ship for years and years. And somebody said, look, we have all these people working on this operating system and working on these products. We can't not ship for 7 years hoping that there's new cutting edge hardware in the meantime. Plus, when you ship it, you're also driving the market, right? Like the shipment of Vision Pro, we talk about those Sony screens that are in there and how they're a limited quantity. Well, the act of shipping Vision Pro is going to create high quality screens at a volume for AR and VR that we've never seen before, because there's money to be made but you can't do it unless you ship it.
So you said that Apple's dialing back the car, and this is from Mark Gurman today in Bloomberg. I don't know how much is rumor-based. As we started, after board meetings, Gurman says, the car has been downgraded to level 2 plus autonomy, which is basically what we've got now. This is nothing.
That's a win.
Yeah,
that's a win, because reality has set in the Apple Car project, because they were all 100%. Like, it's a little like the saying, oh, why don't we just do glasses? And somebody's saying, dude, we can't do glasses for 15 years. Let's ship a product. This is that where they're like, oh, we'll design it with benches facing each other, and there won't be a steering wheel, and it'll drive itself. and at some point, somebody reported that credulously like a year ago. And I'm like, dude, no car in the next 5 years is going to ship without, or 10 years or 15 years probably, is going to ship without a steering wheel. You need to make a car, make a Tesla-esque car.
Well, interestingly,
ship this thing. And they seem to have gotten the message that they can't.
Elon is, of course,
autonomy.
The hype master promoting basically level 4. But I think Apple's smart. They're saying, well, it's going to be kind of between level 2 and 3, which means drive the vehicle under limited circumstances. Again, my new car will do that. Traffic jam chauffeur, my new car will do that. That's level 3. So they're saying we're not even going to be level 3. We're going to have steering and brake acceleration support, lane centering, and adaptive cruise control. In a sense, every car coming out today has these features, level 2 features.
And
also the other thing,
upgrades down the road.
Yeah. But they're smart to say, no, well, this is the target anyway. And by the way,
I have
2028.
2028. 4 years from now.
Even that's speculative. I mean, the state of the art right now is that if you have a small area of a city that's intensely well mapped out specifically, then you can have a car that, if it is being supported by lots of humans at a data center remotely, who is always taking a look at what it's doing, it will sometime sometimes still screw up pretty badly, but not be good enough for. I mean, this is
not what they're talking about. They have left that behind now, and they're saying that we're going to ship
that's why I'm saying
in 2028.
That's why I'm saying level two are the features that people actually want, which is help me to get from this street onto the highway.
And I have to say, my mother didn't. Go ahead, your mother.
Quickly, my mother would always need a ride if it needed to go on the highway because she was just terrified of that merge onto the highway. And if you could just simply say, okay, I'm lined up, get me onto the highway. And then also, now that I'm on the highway, take over. I'll have my hands on the wheel, but take over until it's time for me, until you take me safely off the exit. And that's the stuff that's actually useful. I mean, the only reason why this got so much investment so early on is that for the reason why a lot of technology always gets an amazing amount of investment, despite the fact that it's a moonshot. Any technology that gives an industry the ability to fire a lot of people will always get an enormous amount of investment to see if they can make that happen. It's why we're seeing humanoid robots as a really, really hot sector right now. So many different companies are trying to create a leasable workforce because, again, we don't know if this is actually going to be useful. We don't know if they can actually do things that are even less expensive or more productive than an actual human. But the ability to simply lease your workforce the way that you used to be able to lease your computers in the 1950s, 60s, and 70s, that's a lot of people you get to fire, a lot of money that hopefully you get to save. It is enticing. It is intoxicating for an industry.
Well, 2028 for a car that is essentially the same thing you would get today.
Yeah. I do wonder, though. I mean, it's Apple, right? So they're gonna find an angle there, and it may be more features than people are used to while not claiming full autonomy, and that's fine, right? Like I think there are ways to do features that help you as a driver, and and they will build an interface
they can make a nice car. Hell yeah,
they could make a nice car. They certainly could make a nice car. And it's funny because reading this story, I was like, oh, well, it might happen now. Because before this, it's been so pie in the sky that it's not realistic. And according to Gurman, they had a real tough back and forth with Cook and the board and the people who are running that, who I think they basically said, what could you ship in 4 years? What could you ship? Because otherwise you're going to end up like if they had just tried to keep making glasses instead of doing the Vision Pro, which is like, we can't keep spending all of this money with no product on the horizon. There has to be a product here somewhere. And then you iterate, right? So it sounds like I had that moment where I thought, I didn't like getting up at 5 a.m. to spend $5,000 or $4,000 on a Vision Pro. And like in 4 years, you're going to make a car. Oh boy. Right. Yeah. But it feels a little more real because it's a more realistic goal. It's a product that people actually make now instead of this fantasy product with no steering wheel.
And I do think part of that conversation was apps. Apple makes a huge amount of money on apps. The Vision Pro seems to be more instinctively a platform for selling apps and taking 3% out of every dollar that's spent in the app store than glasses, where it's essentially an it feels like a sophisticated way to get alerts and simple interactions between an app that you've already purchased on your phone. I have to believe that was part of the discussion as well.
And I should also point out that all the EV manufacturers, including Ford, are sucking wind right now because Elon has dropped the prices of Teslas so low that they can't sell their EVs. Tesla owns this market. So this is a tough market right now for Apple to enter. It's a very low margin business, I would say.
Tesla's doing okay, right? I think the Model Y was the best selling car last year, but the truth is, like, if you look at where Apple might play, it's not the Model Y and the Model 3. It's like the Model S or the Lucid Air. And there was a story about how Lucid sold 6,000 cars last year or something, like some ridiculously small number. Yeah. So that's the danger that Apple has, is Apple's instinct is going to be to make $100,000 car.
Gurman's even saying
and that's
100,000.
Fine.
Yeah.
That's a tough sell. That's going to be a tough sell.
It's out of my range.
Yeah. Same. By a lot.
By a lot.
I won't
I'm
be
not ordering that at
then.
5 a.m. Let me tell you.
Yeah. No. I'm out of that pre-order.
You're not going to max out on the storage?
I'm not getting a 1 terabyte. Nope.
Other stories. Apple's timing, by the way, very bad. At Daring Fireball, John Gruber says it's like the sixth finger in an AI rendered hand. He's talking about Apple's announcement that, okay, sure, Supreme Court, we'll open up our app store so that people can refer to other places. We're still going to take a 27% commission on all sales. And he says Apple's damaging their brand and their reputation with this policy. It is probably one of the reasons Netflix, YouTube, and Spotify, this just is a piling on now at this point. And they said, yeah, see, we hate these guys too. They have to do it. The Supreme Court has declined to review the lower court decision that Apple has to allow apps to, say you have an Amazon, you're reading a book in the Kindle app on the iPhone. Right now, when I say I want to buy this book, it says you can't buy it because Apple won't let them say where you can buy it. Now we'll have a link to an Amazon store where you can buy that book. But Apple says, but we still want our 27%. 3% off because you're doing the credit card, not us.
Yeah, it's pretty horrifying. It really is a middle finger. I say, okay, we will give you the absolute minimum compliance with a court order that we have fought all the way to the top of the
not just
Supreme
minimum,
Court.
malicious compliance, I think.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, it's not just that, but you have to spend, give us 27% instead of 30%. You are going to have to give us an accounting every single month, no more than 15 days after the start of the month, of every single app sale that you made. You have to apply to us for this ability. We may even reject you. We are going to pass and fail depending on whether we think that you're going to be harmful or not. You also have to put in a warning, and here is an example, a boilerplate that you can use to make sure that we're not going to ding you on this, that has in big bold letters, your phone will turn into a bat, latch onto your throat, and kill you if you leave this app to buy something someplace else. On and on and on and on. It really is disgusting, and it's petty, it's spiteful. It is the kid who's been told, look, you are going to school today, and saying, I'm going to go to school, but you're going to drag me to school covered with my own spit and tears and vomit, and I'm going to punch you and kick you and bite you every inch of the way to school, as opposed to saying, look, you lost. You never had a point. Apple never had a viable argument to this begin with. They're not the ruling is not saying that Apple has to allow side loading of apps. It just has to allow companies to say, oh, by the way, inside the app, you can go to our site to sign up for this subscription or to buy this book. And the fact that was illegal and that violated App Store policies for so long shows you that Apple has, you hear about these people, or especially these celebrities that are the best people in the world until they drink, and then they turn into the worst people you've ever heard of in your life. App Store is Apple drunk. That is like they're the least like Apple they ever are when it has anything to do with running the App Store. It's terrible. It's embarrassing, and Apple should grow up.
It does feel spiteful, like a little kid being told, okay, you can't do this, and then they do everything but that.
Yeah.
And they step right up to the line. And it's
malicious
like,
compliance. It is.
Look, I get they're playing a dangerous game here, right? Because it is when you say, okay, we'll comply with the letter of the law, but no further, and it's not going to be any benefit to everyone, they're basically daring the regulators to step over that line. And I do think that there are people within Apple who think, it is one thing to say you have to put this in your interface, and it's another thing to mandate that Apple not charge money for access to its platform, right? Because that is going a little deeper into a company, and I think that they're like, how does that work? And they think that they've got other moves they could make. They could maybe say, okay, well, if you don't do this, then there's going to be an alternative minimum tax that's based on the size of your company to have access to our developer tools. Like, there are lots of levels that they could continue to play here. The danger is that they are inviting angry regulators to go deeper and deeper into their business instead of, like, because look, the bottom line is this thing, even without the bookkeeping external tax that's still being levied, is behind a scare dialogue, and it's inconvenient. So I would argue that you would have to, even if Apple took no tax from people outside the store, they would still do okay, because if the mandate is you still have to offer in-app purchase, most people are going to do the in-app purchase. It's just so much easier, but it does mean that Apple might lose some money to external sales, especially if they do big discounts on the outside. still, that's going to happen. Honestly, that's going to happen anyway, because if you only have to track them for 7 days, it's going to be really easy to get somebody to pay for a month, get on their mailing list, not recharge them, and then email them after 8 days and say, hey, I can give you a deal, right? It's still going to happen, but they look so like just like little kids having a tantrum, and and the danger, and this is what we've been all saying all along, the danger is you are daring the law, the regulators, the lawmakers to come further into your business and interfere with it. At some point, you need to say, you know what? We're just a whistle past the graveyard here, and Apple has not reached that point yet. They're like, it's a dare. They're like, we dare you to tell us that we can't charge people for access to our platform, and that's a dangerous dare.
Yeah, what really gets me, and this is why I'm really hardline about Apple having absolutely no right to, absolutely no defense for this, is that I absolutely.
Hello?
Sorry, I'm getting notices that my default microphone has changed. Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, sorry. I got an alert that was anyway. I can respect the argument that Apple should not be letting software developers avoid the Apple tax when they create an app that relies on Apple's APIs. They're relying on Apple's storefront. They're relying on Apple's marketing. They're relying on Apple's development tools. We can argue about the idea that Apple doesn't allow them to do anything else other than that. But I can understand that Apple has in some way materially contributed to the development of this app, the creation of this app. It's when they say that, that digital copy of Amazing Spider-Man this week that came out on Comixology. Yeah, we want 30% of that too, but you didn't create it. I know, but you had nothing to do with marketing it. That's not your customer. It's my customer. Oh, I know that too. You also had nothing to do with selling it, because now, I know that either. I just want 30% of this comic book, even though, of course, there's not already 30% of overhead in the purchase price of this. You just pass it on to your customers. That'll work fine. And that's like, this is why. Just go to hell, Apple. Again, you're drunk. Go home, come back with the Vision Pro. Okay, I want the nice Apple back again.
Here's the warning you get when you click on an app and go to the outside place.
Danger.
You're about to go to an external website. Apple's not responsible for the privacy or security of purchases made on the web, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, it's just Apple can't verify any pricing or promotions. They might as well put the continue button in black on black typeface. Jamie Zawinski, Cory Doctorow brought this to my attention on Sunday on Twit, has collected a few of these. What did Cory call them? These fences. This one's from the original browser, the Mozilla browser. No, what was it? It was NCSA's browser. Beware, despite our most strenuous intentions in the contrary, absolutely anything could be on the other end of this hyperlink, including quite possibly pornography or even nudity. Or you're about to leave myspace.com.
Was it something we did?
It's just amazing that Apple, in this day and age. Now, of course, Alex Lindsay was on Twitter on Sunday, and if you want to, Alex isn't here today to argue the opposite, but if you want to hear his arguments, he was very good on Sunday explaining why he thought Apple was right not to offer this external link. It's maybe not the ideal situation for users. Honestly, I don't know why Apple makes the iPhone so different from the Mac, and I do hope the Mac doesn't become like the iPhone. Right now, of course, on the Mac, you can, quote, sideload it. We used to call it downloading apps. Sideload any application you want from anywhere you want.
We still call it that on the Mac. I don't think they're ever going to change on the Mac. They've had plenty of opportunities. They're not going to do it.
Thank God. I hope they don't.
These other platforms. Yeah. And there are, Alex is absolutely right. There are valid arguments here, but I think that's why I'm making not only does it make me feel kind of put off, like Andy said, but also I think I want to make that business argument that they are really playing with fire here.
I agree.
By doing this.
I agree.
And why? What's the benefit? I get that there's money to be made here, and you've been making money, but I think there were other ways to play this that are not rolling your eyes and kicking the dirt and acting like a baby.
Maybe they've deluded themselves to the point where they really believe it, that this is a terrible thing for users. Corporate culture is so strong, and Steve Jobs, I say every time where it's like, where's my money? We're going to get our money one way or another. That's Steve.
That came from Steve, and he made sure he set up Apple University. He set up the entire corporate culture at Apple. It's hard to kill corporate culture once it's ingrained. He built that, and Steve, and I've said this before, but like Steve never forgave Pat McGovern, the guy who founded IDG, for doing Macworld and making a business that was successful, Macworld Magazine, Macworld Expo, because Steve felt like the word Mac and all the greatness of the Mac was from him and his largesse and Apple's largesse, and how dare somebody else make a business based on it without kicking them in for a share. And like that was always Steve's attitude.
Kind of mafia
it was
mentality.
It was his attitude when he left Apple. It was his attitude when he came back. It is. And he wants his money. I mean, and Steve really did believe that Apple was the source and he was the source of all that was good and profitable, and that everybody else was just kind of a parasite.
It's one of the reasons we didn't want to call it podcast. I didn't want to call it podcast for years because they actually did sue some companies who had the word pod in their name, and I was very worried that Apple might do the same to us.
So that my point is, Steve is long gone now, but
it lives.
Culture,
it lives.
His culture lives on, and this is one of those cases where I think you end up as a very rich company, you have more to lose than to gain by behaving like this. But when Steve came back, they were a death's door. They had maybe more to gain than to lose by encouraging this kind of mindset. But that day passed a long time ago, and yet we're still here. So they need to. I say they need to change their attitude and change their culture, but I think the truth is, as somebody who's spent a long time trying to change a print magazine culture to think about the internet, it is. I once did a presentation where I literally put up a slide about corporate culture, and it was just a picture of Godzilla. I'm like, you can't beat it.
Oh, I know.
And Apple is struggling with that now.
You and I are so glad we don't work for big companies.
Corporate. I mean, it's just. They can be powerfully positive, like good corporate culture. The reason corporate cultures exist is to keep the thing running and doing what it needs to do. The downside is if you need to change, good luck.
Very hard.
It's not going to happen.
I don't think anybody who's not worked in a big company at a higher level where you dealt with that really understands that, but you're absolutely right. I saw it at ZDTV. I saw it at Ziff Davis. I saw it in the site. Have you turned on your stolen iPhone protection? iOS 17 came out, 17.3 came out yesterday, as did Mac OS 14.3. I'm going to guess there are significant security fixes in here. It just feels like that. So you might want to do those updates. But this the biggest new feature in 17.3 is stolen device protection. Now, you turn it on by going into your settings, Face ID and passcode. You have to enter your passcode. Don't look. I'm not going to show you my passcode. I talked to somebody who still has a 4-digit passcode. I thought, what? You're crazy. And if you scroll down, way down, you'll see stolen device protection. Oh, I just turned it off. Let me turn it back on again. This adds, says Apple, another layer of security when an iPhone is away from familiar locations, such as home and work. By the way, how does Apple know what home and work is?
So that was actually one of my things when I turned it on. So if it's at one of your, it's called significant locations, it will allow you to turn.
Is Apple tracking my location? How does it know what's home and work?
If you go to settings, privacy and security, go to location services, scroll all the way down to system services, there is a significant locations screen. This is actually what mine looks like. And for some reason, it has a Publix here as one of my significant locations, which raised a flag with me.
You must spend a lot of time shopping.
It says there's 197 records in this significant locations place, but I can't access them. Like I can't see what the locations are that it thinks is significant, because I might want to remove some of those significant locations, especially a supermarket, and would like to add some manually, like my home address and maybe my mom's house. And so I would like some more granularity into like what significant locations is it seeing? Can I, see what's there? But because then you can disable.
Oh, this is hysterical. It does think my home is significant, but it also thinks Noah's Bagels is significant. Yeah. That is bizarre. Actually, it's Safeway, just like you. It's a grocery store.
It's a grocery. Yeah, it's strange.
And it's not my number one grocery store by name. That's weird. I didn't even know this thing was here. It says it has 171 records over the last 23 days. So that's
you can clear your history.
By the way, if you are one of those people who say, "Oh my God, Google knows everywhere," you know who else knows everywhere you are? Apple. You could turn it off, but I've never even seen that setting. That is way buried deep in system services under location.
And the big difference is probably this is on device. I don't think this information.
I trust Apple, and honestly, a lot of these things are valuable. In this case, the stolen phone protection, right? But just want to point out, first-party data collection is real. And when Apple says, "Oh, you don't want this app to track you," they're tracking you. Just remember that. That's all. They're all tracking you. It's ridiculous. Anyway, is this going to sell? Is this going to
keep? If they're tracking you on the device and it doesn't go anywhere, it's not the same, and you can't make a parallel.
We're sure that it's not going off device.
That's what this is. It's the same with the journaling app, right?
Yeah,
they're doing it on
that.
device.
Yeah.
Apple's apps often are worse because they don't share that information and amalgamate it. They just keep it on the device, and that's the case here. And again, the idea here is if you're in a weird place and somebody steals your phone, it's not and maybe the grocery store.
If it's not a Noah's Bagels, though,
that's right.
Then they can do stuff to it.
But they're closing
on that screen, significant locations are end-to-end encrypted and cannot be read by Apple.
Awesome.
It's like in the little fine print
of that
page.
That's good. All right. So, in fact, that's a perfect use of that the phone should know everywhere I go. And, of course, law enforcement, when they get my phone, or Pegasus, or when my phone is cracked, all that stuff will be there. But, that's the price we pay for having a phone, I guess.
Yeah. And there's also just the basic common sense of, hey, look, I don't care if my phone is unlocked. If someone tries to change my Apple ID password, ask to verify who I am. I don't care if I just unlocked this 30 seconds ago. Yeah. Ask to verify.
No, that's good. And it's using Face ID or Touch ID, which we know is highly secure. It puts it, if you do really serious things like change your Apple ID password or your device passcode, there's like a time delay on it, right? What is it, a day?
1 hour.
1 hour.
1 hour. Yeah.
So that's to keep some, and this is all, I think, in response to Joanna Stern's article in the Wall Street Journal about people, I don't know, shoulder surfing you and getting your code and then taking your phone or getting your phone when it's unlocked and like keeping it unlocked and then accessing everything in there. Because as we just pointed out, everything is in there.
Basically locking you out of Apple ID so that you can't remote lock it, you can't remote destroy it.
Right. So this is a direct response to that, and I think it's a good idea. I turn it on.
And
I don't see any reason not to.
No, yeah, I turn it on, like iCloud passwords too. So if you try to get into your iCloud passwords with stolen device protection on, it won't ever fall back to your phone passcode to unlock. It'll just say Face ID is required, will not unlock without it. So they can't get your banking login, your Square Cash, Venmo, all that kind of stuff.
So turn it on, download 17.3, download 14.3. I think these are mostly security updates. They're not as
unfortunately, that stolen device protection is not on iPad. It's only on the iPad.
Oh.
No, you can't. It's not on the iPad, which is strange.
If you look at the fixes, by the way, in the security page that they're shipping, it's a long list. It's a long list. I think you definitely want to download this. There's a lot of things that are being patched in 14.3. Same with 17.3.
Yeah, I think there was a new 0 day that Google found. I think that patches that as well. So there's a lot of good reasons to update.
Apple is now going to pay higher royalties to people who mix their music spatially, even if you don't play it in spatial audio.
I mean, more music for artists is good.
More money for artists.
And if what they're doing, more money for artists. And if it is sort of like the carrot is the money and the stick is spatial audio mix, please. I don't know. I mean, until somebody writes an article that says, no, the amount of money that it costs to do a spatial audio mix is far more than they'll get. I mean, in general, I'm looking at this like, oh, somebody wants to pay artists more money for streaming media.
Love it.
Good.
Dude,
let's do that.
Do it.
Let's do it.
I am not.
And Apple wants, they see the benefit in having streaming or having spatial audio mixes out there. And it's fine. I think they're fun. I listen to them from time to time.
That's my point. As at first we were saying, it's like going from mono to stereo, and Apple really pushed that. I don't. Yeah.
It depends on the mix too. I mean, even with mono to stereo, remember those early Beatles stereo mixes were 100% panned one way or another. Like I'd say a lot of spatial audio mixes these days are kind of subtle, and that's good in one way, but it also makes it less of a night and day kind of difference. Like I've got some old 5.1 albums that were released on DVD, and those are like those Beatles albums. They're like the vocals are here, the horns are here, the guitar is over there.
Off. Yeah.
And they're and the modern Dolby Atmos mixes are a lot generally, I mean not all of them, but are generally more subtle than that. And that's good artistically, but it's bad for Apple trying to sell it.
We were talking about my favorite anyway, album these days, Peter Gabriel's new I.O., which has 3 mixes. It has a light side, bright side, dark side, and then inside, which is his Dolby Atmos mix. I can't tell the difference. I've tried.
I actually listened to that inside mix again the other day, and I can tell, but it's subtle. It's one of those things where there are moments where the drums are coming from behind, and I had that moment of like, oh, that's pretty good, right? But it's not. It's subtle, and that's again. I think Apple sees there's a benefit here for AirPods. It's one of those places where like, how do we get any leverage if we're Apple over something that's a commodity? Because Spotify does the same thing and Amazon does the same thing. And I think this is one of them where they're like, we got the hardware, we've got the service, we can roll this spatial audio into all of our products wherever we can, and then make claims about it being a better experience, and that gives us a little bit up on Spotify. So okay.
So I played the inside mix on. I guess I should listen to it on my AirPod Pros or Pro Max, but I played it on my speakers, my Apple speakers. And it sounded good. I kind of like the bright side mix. So anyway, good. More money to the artists. You're exactly right. That's what matters. All right. I know there's a lot of stuff we spent so much time talking about, but I think I got the major things, right? You get a new Watch OS 10.3 with a new Unity Bloom Apple Watch face. There are new wallpapers also for the iPhone to celebrate Black History Month.
The other big feature was collaborative playlists in Apple Music.
Yeah, I saw that, but I don't know anybody who I would do that with. Do you do that with anybody?
Well, so in my YouTube video, I actually showed the QR code and left it open to see who can join. And so I hit the max. Max collaborators on a playlist is 100 people. And so I got 100 people in this Apple Music playlist.
Oh.
It was like over 9,000 songs.
Oh, that's a great idea. Didn't you do that, Andy, in the very early days of Apple Music? You had a playlist you had people do, right?
Yeah, I just asked people to recommend one and only one song. Don't explain why, don't explain how, but it has to be only one song.
That was so cool.
That was fun.
Yeah, I wish I could have limited it because there were a couple people that kind of spammed the list and added like 1,000 songs just themselves because it's totally open. Like they added and reordered
it should be one
list.
song. Yeah.
Yeah, you can.
So where do I do this? Show me, Stephen. Walk me through this, bearded teacher. I have I'm in Apple Music. Go to playlists.
Go to playlists, and this has to be a playlist that like you created, not like an Apple Music playlist.
Where's playlists? I don't know.
Go to your library tab in the bottom right.
I'm such an old man. Oh, here we go. Playlists.
Go to playlist.
New playlist.
Yep.
Okay.
You can do one of your current playlists. It doesn't have to be.
No. I should do my funeral playlist. Actually, that'd be good. Okay. So I'm going to do shared, create that, and a picture of me. Let's take a photo because that makes it so much more real. All right, there we go. That's it. Okay, now we got an album cover. Now I create it, right?
Okay. So create the playlist.
Okay.
And then in the upper right-hand corner.
Oh, yeah, collaborate. Yeah.
Person icon, yep. And you can.
I can approve them or not. Start collaborating.
So if you don't approve it, then you can put the link or QR code and anyone can join without you having to manually do it. So I left that off.
Where's the QR code? Is it...
So once you start collaboration, then you can hit the little community thing and the QR code option.
Oh, there it is. Okay. There it is, everybody. Go ahead. Do me a favor, though. Don't spam it. Put your favorite song. Let's do what Andy did. Put one song. You don't have to explain it. Just put your favorite song in there, the song I should be listening to really enjoy spatial audio to its fullest. So we'll see what happens, Stephen. You got how many songs?
100 people maximum can. It stops after that. It wouldn't let many more people in.
And you got how many songs in there?
Oh, there's like 9,500 or something. It's ridiculous.
There you got Patrick and Bill and others in there. There's Richard. There's Ricky.
Wow, they're already going.
I see mime artist.
And you can see emojis. You can actually react to other people's songs as you're listening.
Oh, nice.
And you can start it, put a fire emoji. And so it's kind of cool to see other people react.
Oh, that's cool.
And you see that in the playlist.
Well, quite a few. I must have worked because I'm seeing quite a few people of it. And John, Ashley, I don't know. I could send you the screenshot, but then if I do, I bet you it'll be full before the end of the show.
Well,
if it's not full before the end of the show,
I don't know. I just need it for scientific purposes.
Oh shoot, that means you're going to make it the thumbnail. We're trying to compete with you guys, you YouTubers, Stephen, and doing the thumbnails.
It is fun though because you can see like in the playlist that I created, you see the person's photo next to the song that they actually added to the playlist.
I like that. Yeah.
And you see other people's emoji that they reacted.
I think that's fun. I think our audience is going to be adult enough. Now I'm really asking for it, aren't I?
There were some questionable song additions. I'm not going to lie.
Grandma got run over by a reindeer. All right, I am now sending this to our producer, John Ashley, so he can put it somewhere. I don't know where he's going to put it, but I've just sent it to you, John. All right, let's take a little breaky wakey and a little breaky wakey heart, and we'll come back and get your picks of the week, ladies and gentlemen. Pick of the week time. That was a short break. It was a nice a break that refreshed. Pick of the week time. Andy Anako, you kick it off, will you?
My pick is a really great app for the Mac that after 15 years of development is finally available for like iOS or a long time development. My favorite crossword app for the Mac is called Black Ink. It's made by Red Sweater Software.
Love it too.
By the remarkable Daniel Jelker.
Yep.
And the blog post is really magnificent because he says that it's been in beta for like 2 presidential administrations. It's just that there are a lot of like little things that had to be wrapped up in order to ship it finally, and there are a lot of things that like had to take priority like at Red Sweater before that had to happen. But now it's finally out, and it really is just as good as experience on the Mac. It's such a natural to be doing crossword puzzles on the iPad, and although obviously this is not nearly the first app for crossword puzzles on the iPad, I think it's probably like the most the most like iOS like, the most iPad like. They're not just trying to do something super flashy and clever. It is like, no, I want to download a whole bunch of crossword puzzles. I want to solve them. I want to work on them, and I want to basically have this thing in front of my face on the commuter rail that tells people don't have a conversation with me. I'm clearly focused on other than human interaction. It's free, and so it's free if you want to provide your own crossword puzzles or use some of the basic ones that you can get from it for $2 a month or $20 a year. You also get access to all kinds of other features, including access to other puzzles. But you don't necessarily have to always get your puzzles through this app directly. Again, it'll connect to there's actually a standard for digital crossword puzzles, and it's compatible with them. So I didn't really get into crosswords that much until I started like using Black Ink on the Mac, because nobody can see when you erase and replace something if you're just typing in words from a keyboard, and that's something that I really like.
You like those smudges when you erase and things like that.
I like to be able to basically tell people that I just do it in ink first time, and this one it's only a Wednesday puzzle, so it kind of bored me. But hey, my bus was late. Even though I was like Googling pretty much 3 out of every 5 different questions.
I like
getting the other 2 wrong.
I like to support Daniel. I bought Black Ink for the Mac, and you can, by the way, hook it up to your New York Times account, because there really is only one good crossword puzzle, and it's the New York Times crossword puzzle. So, but if you prefer his interface, which I do, to the New York Times.
Yeah, exactly.
Interface,
it's such a beautiful interface. Yeah. Yep.
Are there any other good crossword puzzles, Andy?
I have to admit that there's the New York. I'm not a puzzle snob. I basically occasionally do crosswords, and yeah, it's the one where when you get the easy one on Monday, you have a really good time. When you get halfway through the Thursday one, even though you failed abjectly, you feel really good you got that far. And when you have better things to do on a weekend than even pretend you're able to solve a weekend Sunday Times crossword puzzle, you still have a good time with the frustration of it.
Have you tried the Apple News ones? Apple News crosswords?
No, they're terrible. You're not going to recommend those, are you?
I don't know. I was just asking.
Yes, I
don't do
have.
crosswords.
I don't like them. So here's the deal.
The People Magazine crossword is pretty good.
Yeah, TV Guide used to have a great crossword. If you knew your TV shows, instant.
Yeah, that was fun.
Apple's news crosswords are, they're not bad. The problem is, really, it's like there's a culture to each. Like Will Shortz really makes the New York Times crossword puzzles a certain way, and you kind of get to know the culture. It's easy on Monday and hard on Sunday, but there's also kind of a style, and once you know that, then it's fun to do those crossword puzzles. Apple made theirs, I think, a little too easy, in my opinion.
Yeah, and especially the really well-crafted ones where you realize like a third of the way in that,
love it.
All of like the really long clues are basically are basically movies that Margot Robbie was in, but with a twist on the wordplay. Okay, now I get this.
Yeah, I love that. That really makes me happy, and some of them are very challenging. So, Good pick. I like it. Stephen, I should have started with you. You're our special guest. Guests should always go first. What's your pick of the week?
Well, if I would be allowed 2 quick picks.
Well, you have as many as you want. Yes.
Well, one is an app called Mapper. This is for iPhone and iPad. It's a $2 application. It's actually a Safari extension. So once you install it, you have to enable the extension. Well, what it does is if you're an Apple Maps user, I do like Apple Maps. When you're in your Safari browser and you search for a business or location, typically, especially if you use Google as your default search engine, you get the Google directions in the Safari browser. And, there's the easy get directions, but it opens in Google Maps. Well, if you like Apple Maps better, Mapper will actually redirect anytime you click a location like a business get directions or anything. When you click it in Safari from Google, it'll automatically open it in Apple Maps. And so it's a great, just quick utility. If Apple Maps is your preferred one, this little application will, make it easy just to get all those businesses that you might find in Safari to go to it in Apple Maps.
Nice.
And yeah, it's a fun little thing. Secondly, is actually a MagSafe battery pack, because at CES there's Qi 2 was the new wireless charging standard. It's actually based on Apple's MagSafe, and one of the first ones to market is this Anchor Qi 2 MagSafe battery pack.
Ooh, I love the Anchor stuff. Okay, what?
Love Anchor.
Yeah.
This is a 10,000 milliamp hour battery.
Oh, it's small too. That's nice.
Yeah, I mean it's thick compared to the phone.
Oh yeah,
you're gonna get it's chunky, but 10,000 milliamp hours. USB-C on this side, so you can charge it. It has a built-in little like kickstand, so you can actually have a little kickstand. Goes into standby mode if you put your phone on it. Also has a screen on this side, which will tell you the battery percentage of the battery pack right here on the screen, and it will tell you if you plug it into charge how long it's going to take to charge the battery pack, which is pretty nice. But the biggest benefit is because this is Qi 2, which is based on Apple's MagSafe standard, you get 15 watts of wireless charging from this battery pack, which is way faster than all the battery packs you would have had before. Faster than Apple's, faster than any third-party battery pack you would have gotten last year or the years prior. And it actually charges really at a decent rate. I've tried this a couple times. The 15 watts.
Qi 2 is 15 watt instead of 10, 7?
Instead of like the 5. It's 5. A lot of those Qi chargers were 5 watts.
Wow.
If you got like the Anchor Mag Go previously, those were like 5 watt charging, and that was pretty much it. And it got very hot. That was the other negative side to a lot of those battery packs. This one does not get as hot, and it still charges at 15 watt speeds, and it's been great. You can charge like a 14 Pro twice. That's what Anchor says.
Cool.
I basically get my 15 Pro Max, I can charge it one full time, and then I get like 30-40% afterwards if I exhaust the battery.
And that's a kickstand, right?
Yeah, kickstand on the battery.
That's so cool. I like that idea.
And if you need fast charging, this will actually do fast charging for your iPhone if you plug in with the USB-C cable on this side.
Okay.
So you get 27 fast charging from the battery to your phone if you need to like really get the juice in there quickly. So it's pricey. It's $90, but it's the first Qi 2 battery pack. Belkin has 3 models coming in March, and so those will be different sizes, different prices, but Qi 2, it's like the real deal.
And it comes with a bio-braided USB-C to USB-C cable, if you want.
It comes with a nice cable.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's nice. Gosh, how heavy? Does it feel pretty heavy?
It's about the same weight as my 15 Pro Max with a case on it.
Okay.
Like it's pretty.
It's like having a second
a little
phone.
heavier.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be chunky, like if you're walking around a conference with this battery pack on the back, but you
get two more charges.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I like the stand. I'm thinking like that's useful for an airplane. Can you turn the phone sideways? Yeah. You can.
Yeah. You get standby mode.
Cool. Now you have one of those leather cases. Whose case is that? It's not an Apple case.
This is a Keyway leather case.
Okay.
I really like it.
So MagSafe works through it just fine.
Oh yeah.
Nice.
It'll work just fine. A lot of cases like that.
Yeah. All right, Stephen. It's always a pleasure. Thank you so much for coming on the show. We really appreciate it, especially on short notice. Yeah. Jason, what do you got for us?
Really nice music utility for the Mac called Sleeve version 2. It's at replay.software. It is so it will tell you what's currently playing. It can show album art. It's super configurable, so you can make it look exactly as you want. You can have it float above or always be on the desktop layer, or float above when the track changes and then go back to the desktop layer. Lots of different design choices. Yes, it also does hotkeys, so you can use it to set hotkeys to control your Apple Music playback. It does scrobbling, so if you're a Last.fm head, you can scrobble.
Do people still scrobble? Is that still a thing?
People scrobbling is back, man. It's back. They're scrobbling like it's 2013, I tell you. So it does all the things as an add-on to the music app, and I just think it looks really good. I really like the idea that I used to have like a growl utility that floated my current track when it started playing and then go away again. This is kind of like that. Also, it's bringing that album art up to the surface, and you really choose, if you don't want the name of the artist, you don't want the name of the album, whatever it is, you can get it to look like that. It's just a really nice $6, cheap. You can buy it on the Mac App Store or directly from Replay Software. I only heard about this a couple of weeks ago, and it was an insta-buy for me. It's just a really nice app if you spend a lot of time like I do listening to music on your Mac while you're working. I recommend it. It's really nice. Sleeve 2.2.
It's kind of a weird name, but I'm not going to hold that against him.
It's like a sleeve.
Album sleeve. Right? Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's what it is.
I don't know why sleeve has negative.
I don't know. It is. I as we were sitting here, I was like, what's the name of that thing? What is it? And I had to go find it because it is kind of a weird name, but it's a really beautifully designed with lots of options.
Lovely.
If you're an Apple Music user on the Mac.
I have to mention a couple of things. First of all, Apple did get some Oscar nominations, which I neglected to mention. 13 of them. Napoleon did not go crazy, and it didn't deserve to go crazy. After watching it, I was thinking this is a terrible movie. A little bit better, Killers of the Flower Moon, which scored a Best Picture nomination, Best Director nomination, Best Actress for Lily Gladstone. Napoleon only got nominations for costume design, production design, and visual effects. The battle scenes were amazing, but the acting and the plot were not good. Killers of the Flower Moon was very, very long also. So I watched it in three stages, but worth watching. Robert De Niro got nominated as well he does a really interesting job in Killers of the Flower Moon. So I have a recommendation and a disrecommendation. Watch Killers of the Flower Moon and stay away from Napoleon unless you love, epic battle scenes. The Waterloo battle scene, I don't even know how they made it. It's incredible. It's like you're watching the real thing. Incredible. Then my other recommendation comes from actually a call we got on Ask the Tech Guys. Somebody said, I want to get a Mac. But what about games? And slowly games have been coming out on the Mac, but here's a really good game that's coming out at the end of the month that you can pre-order right now for $20. You can play it on the Mac and the iPhone. Have you played Death Stranding yet, John Ashley? No? Oh, I love this. I've played it on Windows, I think. It plays on the iPad, the Mac, and the iPhone. It's from Hideo Kojima, and it is not a first-person shooter exactly. It's more like you wake up in a weird world and you've got to wander around. But it's really good, and I think it'll look beautiful. I'm very interested to see how it looks on the M3. But it's iPhone, iPad, and Macintosh. If you want to have a AAA title using Metal 3 and Metal FX high frame rate photo mode and all of that, this might be worth checking out. Death Stranding. I think it's using the Half-Life engine, so this might bode well. It's not brand new. Came out a few.
I think it was Unreal, but I'm not 100% sure.
Is it Unreal?
I think so.
It says here, crossover content from Valve Corporation's Half-Life series.
Oh no, it's
and Cyberpunk.
It's like promotional things.
Oh, it's just like ads.
Yeah, so I believe it's.
Is it Unreal?
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised.
Interesting.
It's Hideo, so.
He does Unreal, right?
Yeah,
so that's
he does
an interesting thing because for a while, because of the Epic Apple dust up, we thought maybe there wouldn't be a lot of Unreal Engine stuff on Mac using Metal and so forth. Good.
I mean, this game was made 3-4 years ago.
It's not the latest by any means. Yeah.
No, but still.
Still, it was. I enjoyed it. I thought it was interesting and different.
Yeah, but the baby that you have to like carry around.
You didn't like carrying a baby around?
It wasn't my type of game, personally.
It's not a first person shooter. It's not. What's your type of game? Just out of curiosity.
Well, besides card games,
you liked the Switch game?
No.
Call of the Wild.
No, I mean I like Zelda, but I mean I play anything that has interesting like
John
stories.
Ashley,
yeah.
Anyway, I'll mention it because it's if you pre-order right now, $19.99, which is pretty good for a 2-year-old AAA title.
Anthony says 2019.
2019, 4 years old. Wow. Okay, never mind. Forget I even mentioned it. Thank you to Stephen Robles, the bearded tutor at beard.fm, his new podcast, Primary Tech.fm, and I do believe you have quite a few tutorials on YouTube as well. Is the best thing to do go to Beard FM?
If you go to beard.fm, there's links to everything I do, including the YouTube channel. Did a upgrade, the iOS 17.3 update video right there on the home.
Oh, good.
You can see all
nice.
That.
Yeah.
Hoping to get to 100K this year. We'll see if Vision Pro takes me there.
I'm hoping to get to that's good, 100K. Vision Pro could put you over the top, pay for itself.
I'm halfway there. I'm like,
would it pay for itself if like you got 100K followers?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
for sure.
So see, this is the thing. I think this is what's going to drive sales of the Vision Pro.
YouTubers.
People who want to build their YouTube numbers. Andy Anako, a little bird said you were working offline on your Apple. I mean your Anako.com. What's going on there?
All I'll say is that like I have a list of like 8 things that have to be finished and like fundamental things that have to be solved. I've been solving them as I go, but 4 of them might be solved by switching to a certain platform that I just started looking into. And it's like, ooh, I don't have to worry about that. I don't have to. Basically, one of the things that's been holding me back is that I want this to be just. I want this to have as few moving parts as possible. I don't want to have to spend an hour a day doing system maintenance, doing like mailing lists. I want to make it really easy for me to pay me for memberships because I would like this to be a revenue generating operation. That would be quite lovely.
Well, and you will tell us
that's more moving parts
when you get.
And I will exactly
when you get there. You'll tell us
absolutely,
and you'll tell us how great that platform is or not how great that platform is.
I will. Again, I've been looking at. There's some interesting options that this is how long I've been working on this WordPress thing that first WordPress changed a lot and then alternatives to WordPress changed a lot. I've been dragging my feet or I've been wool gathering on this project for quite some time.
GBH
GBH, there's been a bit of breaking news so that my Thursday Tech Talk has been postponed a week. So tune in February 1st, Thursday at 12:45. Go to wgbhnews.org to listen to it live or later.
21 people so far in my unique playlist, and we're getting Foo Fighters. Oh, Chicago, Saturday in the Park. That's interesting. The War on Drugs, a lot of stuff I've never heard of. So this is good. Keep up the good, and I agree with you on Panopticon. I would definitely put that on the list. Good stuff.
Can I say that I hope everybody enjoys that, because the idea of I came up with that idea because someone proposed that to me, like, hey, I'm doing for a friend's birthday, everyone's like submitting one and only one song, and it's like, oh, it's not like, hey, this band is great. Oh, have you ever gone into opera? Oh, this album, like, no, one track, and you don't get to tell a story about why you recommended it. It's like one track that will live or die on its own, and it's like, my weekend calendar has just been cleared. This is going to be a fun project as I go through 10,000 tracks in my personal library.
Well, it's good. We've got 18 songs, 21 people. We can go up to 100 people. I think this is a great idea. Thank you, Stephen. And I thank you, Andy.
Welcome.
Put your one favorite song in there, and I will listen.
Not
to
even
this
necessarily your favorite, just one.
One great one song, but great, right? You want to
one song that you feel like it should be included in a list of songs.
Perfect.
Just whatever reason you want. Don't even explain it.
Okay, I like it, and I'm going to listen on the way home, which means I'll be driving around the block a lot because it's already getting long. Thank you, everybody, for doing that. Jason Snell. Go to sixcolors.com to find out what's up in the world of Apple. It's the best Apple blog of all. And you have an upgrade podcast on the anniversary of the
people
Mac.
should check that out. There's an audio version and a YouTube version. It is we did a draft. So we had people tell the story of their first Mac, choose the best Mac ever,
cool.
best Mac software, best Mac accessory, and also induct something into the Mac Hall of Shame, featuring me and Mike, but also John Gruber, John Siracusa, Stephen Hackett, Dan Morin, and Shelley Brisbane, people who have thought a lot about the Mac over the years. If you do YouTube videos, I recommend it. It really came out nicely, but also it's just a podcast you can listen to with your ears if you prefer that. But it's a nice, fun, special, nostalgic episode. Good fit for this week for the 40th anniversary.
I love it. And you can always ask me, if you ever want me to be on any of those.
You're too busy, and that was your day off.
I would do it if you wanted me to. But I understand I'm not in that esteemed group of talented people. But anytime, I just want you to know I have a microphone and a camera, and I'm not afraid to use it.
Leo Laporte says he needs to be on more podcasts. Interesting.
Interesting. It's only yours. Only yours. Or Steven's. Steven's are okay.
I was going to say.
Used
I mean,
to. Used to. This sounds like a good one. I will be listening to it. That's great. As soon as it's 148 minutes, you spent some time on this one.
Yeah, that's why I didn't invite more people to it. It is. We go in rounds, and there are some amazing choices, including the Hall of Shame. There's a real shocker in there. So yeah, it's good stuff.
And to be fair, I do have my own show that I can tell all those stories on as well. So it's not like, I need somewhere else to tell those stories. Jason Snell, sixcolors.com. And is the upgrade, does it have its own feed or is it on the Six Colors feed? It's on its own feed.
It's its own feed, yeah. So you can just search for upgrade wherever you get your podcasts or go to relay.fm and it'll be on the homepage there.
Okay. Or on YouTube is what I'm thinking.
Or upgrade podcast on YouTube.
Okay. Because I want to watch the there it is. Latest from Upgrade Podcast, 40th anniversary of the Mac. Why do you say draft?
It's like a sports draft. So everybody takes turns, and if somebody picks it before you do, you don't get it.
Oh, wow. That's fun.
So there's some little gamesmanship.
Oh, good.
There.
Never asked me to do that ever. I don't want to do that. Thank you. Thank you, Jason. You're the best. Thanks, you, Leo. Andy. Love you. Thank you very much, Stephen Robles, for filling in Beard.fm for the Bearded Tutor and the brand new podcast. I'm excited about that. How many episodes have you done?
Three episodes.
That's great.
And it was really well received. And so, we appreciate it. We were near you on the charts in the first week, but we couldn't keep up. So
those charts don't matter. They're only, primarytech.fm. That's what matters, kids.
That's what matters.
That's what matters. We do MacBreak Weekly on a Tuesday, 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern. That would be 2200. No, that would be 1900 UTC. The reason I mentioned that, you can turn on a YouTube stream when we're actually doing the show as we are right now, youtube.com/twit. After the fact, of course, is easier. You can listen at your own leisure, whether you get the podcast from the website, twit.tv/MBW, or you go to the dedicated YouTube channel for MacBreak Weekly, youtube.com/MacBreakWeekly, or subscribe. I think that's the best thing to do in your favorite podcast catcher. That way you just get it automatically the minute we've edited it and put it out. Don't forget to join the club. Take the survey. We'll see you next week. But now I'm sad to say it is my duty to tell you, you need to get back to work because break time is over. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.
Hey there, Scott Wilkinson here. In case you hadn't heard, Home Theater Geeks is back. Each week, I bring you the latest audio-video news, tips and tricks to get the most out of your AV system, product reviews, and more. You can enjoy Home Theater Geeks only if you're a member of Club Twit, which costs $7 a month, or you can subscribe to Home Theater Geeks by itself for only $2.99 a month. I hope you'll join me for a weekly dose of Home Theater Geekitude.